Gosh, it is cold in here. Am I the only one that's cold?
I mean, I like the cold.
You're always cold.
I know,
I get up every day.
I'm always cold.
Oh no.
A little more
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And Coach Terrie Cummings is going to be teaching Win the Seller. This is one of the most crucial skill sets that you need to really learn and absorb, because this is how you make money. You know, take listings, and then of course work with buyers as well. So, who is not yet coaching with Terrie?
I need to
Make an appointment, and Marquavius is brand new also. But good, Ashley, you're
Ashley
and
started.
Rick. Okay, good.
Started.
for tomorrow.
Excellent, because
Yes.
free, crazy not to take advantage of this. And I know some other agents are watching as we live stream.
Okay.
So, madam,
All right.
would you like me to bring in any of the former bound listing presentations that people have put together in the past?
They might want to look at them.
Maybe I'll bring in
just bring them
halfway.
in, and then we can pass them out in a little
Okay.
while. Yeah, that'd be good.
All right.
That'd be good. Thank
Awesome.
you, thank you, thank you.
I have a few more name tents. Oh, Teresa ought to be here. Teresa Williams.
Okay.
Rick.
Oh.
All right. Oh, I forgot my name.
I'm about to order one.
Okay.
Right.
It helps the
There we go.
instructor.
Okay. Good morning, you guys.
Morning.
Okay, like Stacy said, I'm Terrie Cummings. I am the productivity coach. My office is over there on the other side in the commercial area. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, I've been in the business for 22 years. I have my broker's license, a big long string of different designations behind my name. Very passionate about real estate. I love it. It's been a very good career for me. And that's pretty much it for me. So Eva, is it Eva?
Eva.
Okay, Eva.
Ava in Spanish.
Okay.
But it's Eva.
Eva. Okay. Tell me about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm, of course, a new agent. First time in real estate. My career goes back to, I worked for Miami-Dade Fire Rescue for 14 years. Decided I don't like to clock in, so I ended up opening a bookstore cafe that lasted a few years, and then I said I'm tired. I'm locked into the cafe. So the reason I chose real estate is because I like to help people, and I like the freedom.
Okay. Very good. Good. Okay, and I'm sorry, I don't believe we've met yet.
No, we haven't. I'm sorry. I was supposed to go get my name tag. My name is Marquavius,
Okay.
and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My mom is in real estate, so
Oh,
I've been
wow.
showing her. And I come from a totally different background. Before this, I was a full-time performer. I danced, so I was a part of a dance company for
Oh,
a
cool.
year. And yeah, if I'm not doing this, I'm probably going to be somewhere performing.
So is your mom here in the Atlanta area or somewhere
Yes,
else?
she is.
She is?
She,
Okay.
she's at the Keller Williams Camp Creek office.
Oh, okay. What's your mom's name?
Courtney Smith.
Courtney Smith. I used to coach that office years
do.
and years ago. So yeah, I thought I might know her. Okay, cool. All right, Miss Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley Rozier. I am a new agent also. Prior to becoming in real estate, which I still do, I have hair boutique and salon that I manage and own. Do their marketing, blah, all that. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I've been interested in real estate for maybe like the past 4.5, 5 years, and I finally just really took that push and stepped over into it.
Awesome. Mr. Rick.
Hey, I'm Rick. I'm 54 years old. For 35 years, I've been a home builder. I've done everything from new construction, homes in suburbia to high-end renovations in town, and decided to get my license to try and pursue selling homes since that's sort of my thing. I know a lot about houses and whatnot, and I feel like as I'm aging, that real estate is a little bit more friendly to what I can do as opposed to cracking the whip and being the contractor all the time. So hoping to make some money at it, and that's why I'm here. So.
Yay!
Kind of like early
Alrighty.
retirement.
Hmm?
Kind of like early retirement.
Not really. I'm putting in more time.
That's how I look at it for me.
Yeah. Well, I was able to. I owned some rental property, some apartments in Fayetteville, and we sold that. And I wasn't comfortable getting licensed before that because there's a lot of things as a licensed agent you can't do as a landlord. And so since we got out of that, and it was a good opportunity for me to come. I also get some kind of little check out of that every month, so that's helping me get started because I'm not doing all the construction I was. So.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Good thing. Okay, so today is Win the Seller. We're going to talk about pre-listing packets, listing packets, and some of the best practices and things to do, in my opinion. Okay. So, how is everybody coming along on some of the things that you should be doing as far as like your daily 10-4? Is everybody doing that, or? Yes, Ashley, you are?
Yes, yes.
Yay! Awesome. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I've been doing. I've got a sort of out there clients. I've been looking at a lot of different stuff for her. And then I went yesterday and drove around and went in some of them, which I hadn't done much of that. So I got to use my super key.
Yeah.
Because they were new names, so
Yeah. Those are fun. Yeah. Good. It's so important to go and preview homes.
Yeah, because some of the things I thought might be appropriate for this one were just not at all. When you go,
Yeah.
oh no.
I did that this weekend.
Yeah. So
I
it's,
had to show somebody something. So.
oh, good.
It was for a rental, but you know.
Mm-hmm. Hey, there is two different companies out there that see me after this class,
Okay.
and I'll tell you about those companies. If you're working with somebody to rent, there's companies that will help them buy, and then you get a full commission. So just see me afterwards, and I'll talk to you about that.
I'm
Okay.
gonna get information about that also.
Okay. All right. So the reason it's so important to, like, you said, when you go in and preview, like the pictures on FMLS, a lot of times they can be different than what you see in person. So, but then the other thing is just getting to know the market. Getting to know where prices are, what color trends are, what people are liking, what people are buying, because when you know what people are buying, then you know what you need to tell your seller, so that's one of the reasons it's so important to go and preview and get to know the market.
Color trends are great.
Yeah.
It's just great.
I am tired of gray. I'm ready for gray to go away.
Light on the outside
it's
with
been-
dark windows and gray, and
Yeah,
that's kind
and
of all the same.
it's been going on for a while
Long
now.
time. I'm ready for some beige. Those are beige.
Yeah, it should be. Okay, so handwritten notes. Is everybody doing their handwritten notes on a daily basis or no? Okay, yes. Yeah. Okay, no. Okay.
I've done some.
Okay, good. Handwritten notes are really a great thing to do. You would not believe how far that goes for somebody to get something that in the mail that looks like an invitation or a thank you card or an invite and everything. I mean, it goes a lot further than sending an email, than a phone call, and sending a text.
Well,
it really
I didn't go
does.
that far.
It takes time
That's in the-
to
it's in
do
the
it,
emails.
but it does go a lot further than sending an email. I mean, people will actually call you and say, thank you. I got, so I would really concentrate on doing some handwritten notes. Okay, is everybody's head in the game this morning? All right, let's get started. Okay. Like Stacey said, getting listings is the most crucial part of your business. Becoming a strong listing agent and dominating the market is key. The reason, and typically in your first year, it can be harder to get listings than what it can be to get buyers. But the name of the game is to stay consistent and persistent. The more listings you have, the more leverage you have. And what I mean by leverage, when you have a lot of listings, then you've got people coming to you instead of you going to them. You have another agent writing the contract instead of you having to write the contract. You're not running around and wasting all your gas driving buyers around or meeting with buyers and all that. You have a lot more leverage, a lot more freedom. The biggest thing too is it's free advertising for yourself. So because when you have a listing, it automatically goes on all the websites, throughout everywhere. You've got a sign in the yard, and other people in the neighborhood are like, oh man, look, Rick's got another listing in the neighborhood. Maybe we need to call Rick. So it's a great way to advertise for yourself for free, and so that's the name of the game, is getting people to call you instead of you having to go after people. Getting listings is the way to do that. Make sense? Okay, so pre-qualifying the sellers. When I say pre-qualifying the sellers, what does that sound like to you?
Getting them over to a lender. Oh no, not that part.
Seller.
Making sure there's not liens and things against the property.
From
Okay.
the seller's perspective.
Pardon me?
You mean from a listing perspective? or
From a listing perspective.
Okay.
So liens, that's a good one. Okay. The other ways you can pre-qualify a seller is when you're talking to them on the phone to make that appointment, you want to ask them a lot of questions. So in this business, the more questions that you ask somebody, the better off you're going to be. It's kind of like peeling an onion, and pulling the layers back. So question after question when you're working with sellers or even buyers is getting to know what their expectations are, what their needs are, and what their motivation is. So some of the questions you might want to ask a seller is, what's the reason for your move, right? Okay. How much do you owe on the property? Why might that be important?
They might owe more than it's worth.
Correct. They might owe more than it's worth. How soon do you want to move? Where are you moving to? Do you know how much you want for your house? So those 5 questions right there are going to be the most important ones. What's the motivation? So like for instance, if I had someone on the phone and they told me, well, our daughter just had our first grandchild. They live in Colorado and we really want to get out there. They're really motivated to move, right? So the more I know, good morning, the more I know about their motivation, the more I'm going to be able to help them, okay? And it's also about bringing back their, is this your first day?
Yes.
Okay, I think that book right there is your book.
Okay.
And I'm Terry, by the way.
Anita.
I'm sorry?
Anita?
Anita?
Yes.
So because you always want to bring that emotion back to them. So when you go to meet with them and you're talking about price and things like that, and they want to overprice it, then you can come back and you can say, but you said that you want to be in Colorado as soon as possible. So if we overprice it, then you're not going to be in Colorado in 2 months. But if we price it correctly, it's very possible you could be in Colorado in less than 60 days, right? So bringing back that motivation, the only way you're going to know that is by asking them questions.
Hi. Hello.
Uh-oh.
Anita, didn't get my memo, but because you're doing, do you mind coming up? I'm trying to get everybody.
Well, she was, but
So
then
we
I
told her
said that
binder
was
was
her
there.
bad. That was her binder.
We got her in trouble.
Binder was just sitting there. Monsieur. Okay. And please tell me I have spelled everything correctly here. Yes. There we go. All right. That's for afterwards. And okay. I will catch you up. Okay. This is for Terry's benefit. This is Terrie Cummings.
Okay, so positioning yourself as the expert, what does that sound like to you?
Positioning yourself as the expert.
Mm-hmm.
I guess coming in with a lot of knowledge of sales in the neighborhood and,
Right.
and things like that.
Exactly. So a lot of times when you go on a listing appointment, you're going to be up against another listing agent, right? So So you want to know everything there is to know about that neighborhood, about the house, you know, how much they owe on it, what kind of condition it's in, you know, the colors that are in the house, if they have upgraded anything, if they've added square footage to the house since they bought it. All of that stuff is super important to know before you go out there to meet with them, so that you can come across as the expert. You know more than the other agent that you might be up against. Does that make sense? Okay. Then pricing the home. We're going to talk about that. Can you think of any other questions that you might want to ask? There's a whole list of questions on page, should be page 15
It's
of when
14.
page 14, when the seller.
Yes.
So how did you hear about me? That's one thing. If you're talking to them over the phone and they called you, you want to know how they heard about you. Why would that be important?
So that you could continue, like for example, if you're advertising yourself and they say they heard about you from a specific source, you want to keep using that source.
Absolutely. That's a good way to know what advertising dollars are working or what advertising dollars are not working. Where are you moving? What's motivating you to move there? How soon do you have to be there? If we sell your home in the next 30 days, will that pose a problem for you? And if yes, what would that problem be? What would happen if your house didn't sell? How much do you want to list your house for? How much do you owe on the property? I'll be sending you a packet of information. Will you take a few minutes to review it before we meet? Do you have any questions before we meet? Will all decisions makers be there when we meet? Why is that important?
Because you find out that the mother-in-law owns the house and she lives in Saskatchewan or whatever. And, you
Correct.
know, so
Yeah. Whoever is not on that title is not the person to sign the listing paperwork. Okay? So whoever is on the title of that property is who has to sign the listing paperwork. Okay? So there's different instances that might come about, like let's say that the person that owned the property passed away and you are the executor of the estate, then you're probably already going to have power of attorney and that kind of thing. Then that's different. But if somebody is in that situation, they have to show you the power of attorney. You know, so just make sure that you are working with the people that actually own the property. Pre-listing packet. Okay. So this is one of my favorite things to talk about, pre-listing packets. And the reason why it's one of my favorite things to talk about is because the majority of agents do not do pre-listing packets. So, wonder if this one's up here. What a pre-listing packet is it is actually something to give to your sellers prior to you going out there on an appointment. So when I first started doing pre-listing packets, it cut down my appointment time from about 2 hours to about an hour. And so in a listing packet, a pre-listing packet, you've got like a cover sheet, right, that talks a little bit about you. I'm sorry, the cover sheet should not talk about you. The cover sheet should talk about them, right? Okay, so something like this, and this is on page 16. I'll help you to taking the time to understand your wants and needs, your expectations, helping you obtain the highest possible price, advising you on pricing and staging, implementing a comprehensive marketing plan, coordinate the home showing, presenting all offers, negotiating on your behalf, scheduling and coordinating the completion of contingency and inspections, monitoring the buyers.
That part is missing off our page.
It's not?
We go from 15 to 22.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we need to make a copy of this for you guys.
We were all flipping.
Yeah, that is so weird. Okay. And then coordinating and supervising the preparation of all real estate closings and documents, and during the entire listing from start to finish, always representing your best interest. So I will also send you my pre-listing packet that you can edit and make your own. Because when you do that, it really cuts down on all the things that a seller wants to ask you when you're face to face, when you're in person. And not only does it cut down the amount of time that you're going to be there, but it also helps them to understand the process from start to finish. So, and there's a lot of really good tips in that pre-listing packet too to help them understand the condition of their house, getting all the clutter, you know, that location is important, talks about price, how important price is and things like that, and just getting their house ready to sell. And then some of the other things that go along with the pre-listing packet is like the disclosures, the seller's disclosure, the community disclosure, the consumer disclosures, like why it's important to use a realtor, the difference between agency and things like that. And so it really is helpful when you put that in your pre-listing packet and you walk in the door and you see that they've already got all that filled out for you, then you're like, yes, I got this listing. And so it's just a matter of, you know, now agreeing on price, okay? But the pre-listing packet, 90% of agents do not do a pre-listing packet. So it impresses the seller because you've gone over and above what somebody else has done, right? And one of the things that we used to do in the pre-listing packet is when I spoke to somebody on the phone, I would, you know, going through and pre-qualifying them and all that, then I would let them know that I was going to send over a pre-listing packet. I did not email ours because it's pretty big, thick packet. And so, you know, sometimes emails will get ignored. Sometimes if it's too big, it'll go in Google Docs. And believe it or not, some people don't know how to use Google Docs. And so what I used to do is I did not FedEx it, but it got sent. It got put on their doorstep in a FedEx package. You can go to FedEx and you can get free packets from them. And then either myself or my partner would go and put the FedEx packet on their doorstep. And most people, when they see a FedEx packet on their doorstep, what are they going to do?
Excited.
Yeah, they're going to open it and they're pretty much going to go through it. They pretty much, people will not ignore something like that, but they will ignore an email.
And this document that they show in the book, the Keller Williams Guide to Selling Your Home, that is something that's available to us.
Yes.
The little folder. Where
Yep. All of that stuff is available and all of that's on our website and everything.
Okay.
Yep. So some of the things that are in the pre-listing packet besides the disclosures are, it's just like a questionnaire. What's the most important thing you're looking for in an agent? And why is that important is because having that open communication and that open dialogue with your seller to understand what their expectations are, but also you need to help them understand you have expectations too. This is how you make your living, right? So you have to get across to them in the best way you can that you're a professional and that you're not going to take an overpriced listing. You're not going to take a listing that is not in good condition unless they're going to price it correctly, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? All right. And this also asks how they would like to communicate. So some people want to be texted, some people want to be emailed, and some people want to be called. One of the things that is the biggest complaint from everybody in the public is the fact that most agents will not communicate. You're welcome. Most people will not communicate on a weekly basis and keep the sellers up to date with what's going on, such as, you know, oh, I just want to let you know that I just reboosted your listing so it's all over, it's back on, you know, all the social media and all that. So the more you communicate with your seller, the better off you're going to be. You know, the last thing in the world that you want for somebody to say is, I don't know, they put the lockbox on the door and the sign in the yard and I never heard from them again. And trust me, there's agents that do that, really are. But if you want to build this business and have clients for life, then communication is huge. We appreciate it.
On a weekly basis.
On a weekly basis,
Okay.
right? On a weekly basis, and just update them with what you've been doing. Like, for instance, you have showings. then you want to get feedback from the other agents so you can communicate with your sellers what the feedback was, right? The reason that feedback is so important for you to get is because if you've been sitting there telling the seller, look, these paint colors are crazy, you really need to paint, well, they may not necessarily take your word for it, but if you've got 5 agents that have showed the home and all 5 agents have said the buyers cannot stand the paint colors in there, then you can go back, and you can actually show where that agent wrote that information, and you can share that with your sellers. This is all 5 buyers said this, and you can show that, okay? So to get them to cooperate with you more so.
Smells like a dog.
Yeah. I actually, one of my listing appointments years ago, walked in. The outside of the house was just really beautiful. I mean, they had done a good job renovating the outside of it. Nice neighborhood. Walk in, and the entire inside, except for the son's bedroom, the entire inside was avocado green, including the ceiling.
Ooh.
I am not kidding you. Avocado green. Guess what color the son's bedroom was? Black.
Black.
Black. It was the.
Black ceiling too?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Then top it all off, you go in the basement, and it's like a pet store down there. There were wall-to-wall aquariums. I mean, wall-to-wall, even up to the ceiling, aquariums of ferrets and gerbils and hamsters and fish, and it smelled like you would not believe down there. Oh my gosh. So, for me, I always had all my listing paperwork filled out, including the price on my listing paperwork, because I'm not gonna vary on price. I mean, I'm not gonna go over price, right? I'll go under, but I'm not gonna go over. So when we get to the kitchen table and I start explaining to her, in order to get this price, you're gonna have to redo, you're gonna have to paint, you're gonna have to empty that basement out, you're gonna, the smell, it's gonna have to, because that kind of smell, it just won't go away. You've got to get it treated in order for that to go away, if even then it'll go away.
Because it's in the walls.
Yeah, it's in the walls. Yeah, it is. And not only that, but their hardwood floors throughout the main floor were so severely scratched. And the reason why was because they had 3 sons that played baseball, and they were running around in there with their cleats on. Okay. Well, so the price that I had on there when I started, and I said, this price that I have on here, there's no way that we're going to get this price without all of these things being done. And she didn't want to do that. And I said, I'm fine with that. Then we adjust the price down, and we're probably going to have to adjust the price down by about $20,000. And she was not willing to do that. And I said, well, thank you for your time.
Good luck.
And she's like, you're not going to list it? No, ma'am, I'm not going to list it. Well, how come? Because I take listings that I know I can sell. If I take a listing that's overpriced, I haven't done anything for you but make you mad at me, and I haven't done anything for me but waste my money on marketing your property, because all the money I spend on photos and all the other marketing and stuff that I do, I don't get paid back any of that money until after it closes. So if I take a listing that I know is not going to sell, it's like throwing money down the drain, and I haven't done you any justice. So she was pretty upset by it, and she said, are you going to leave your marketing plan with me? No, ma'am.
You're not gonna hire me.
No. So anyways, I don't know if that house ever sold or not. I walked away from it. It's really hard to walk away from a listing. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's really hard to walk away from it. And you'll get there. If you decide that you don't want to walk away from it, that's totally up to y'all. But just beware of what you might be up against. Yes.
So in other words, you're saying that you would prefer to take underpriced versus overpriced anytime?
No. If the house is not in good condition. Like this house was not in good condition. And just because I've been doing it for so long, I knew it would take about $20,000 to get that house into the condition to get a full price offer on it for what the rest of the neighborhood was selling for.
Gotcha.
Okay, so for numbers' sake, let's say that the rest of the neighborhood was selling for $250, but all the houses were in good condition. It wasn't avocado green and all that. Those were selling, but with this one, I knew with the hardwood floors themselves and all the painting and getting that deodorized and all the things that needed to be done, it was going to cost about $20. So if she would have agreed to take the list for me to list it at like $230, then I would have done that. But I'm not going to I would not have taken what the rest of the houses were going at. So it's all about condition and location and price, whether your listing's going to sell or not.
Gotcha.
Make sense? However, it kind of in a roundabout way, what you asked is kind of right. I'd rather take a lower price listing than one that's, let's say that the rest of the neighborhood is selling for $250. I'd rather take it at $245 and see if we can get a multiple bid situation, if the seller's willing to do that. But if they're not willing to do that, as long as we can price it where the rest of the neighborhood is, I'm fine with that.
But what seems to be the kiss of death is when you, in that same scenario, they want $275.
Right.
And you bring it in at $275, nothing sold at $275, and you look stupid, and people won't look at it.
Right. People won't look at it.
Right.
People will not come and look at an overpriced listing. The other thing too is your sign is sitting there in the yard. Remember when I talked about how you want to dominate the neighborhood? You know, the more listings you have, the more business you're going to have because you're advertising for yourself. You take an overpriced listing and that sign sitting in the yard for 2 or 3 months, the neighbors are like, that Rick doesn't know what he's doing. This house is still up for sale and all the rest of the houses have sold like that. That must be a terrible agent.
Right.
They don't realize, right?
That your seller is trying to
Right. They don't realize that, right?
Well, it does seem like the kiss of death, particularly in the larger more expensive. When you come out too high, you might as well take it back off the market.
Right, completely. And then the other thing that you have to worry about too, let's say it is priced too high. Let's say it is $25,000 over the rest of the neighborhood, right? And you do get an offer. Maybe you do get an offer because that person wants to be in that neighborhood. And okay, it's not going to appraise, I mean, that's the other thing that you have to help the seller understand what the appraiser is going to do. And so those are all things to keep in mind. And you'll learn more about appraisals and everything throughout this process. Okay, like I was saying, condition is everything. And in that pre-listing packet, it talks about, condition. I think it's 42 things for the seller to do to condition and showing homes. Talks about paint colors, bathroom, carpet, hardwoods, keeping the blinds open, removing all the clutter, removing everything off the kitchen counters. Why is all that so important?
So maybe to view, I guess, the naturalness of the unit or the space.
The space. It makes when everything is off the countertops and the pictures are off the wall and pictures are off refrigerator and everything like that, it makes the space look so much bigger, but it also allows the buyer to be able to see themselves in the house.
Have their own vision.
Right, have their own vision, exactly. And also, if the pictures and stuff are still on the wall, I'm not talking about artwork. I'm talking about family pictures, okay? People get involved in looking at the family pictures on the refrigerator instead of looking at the house. Because people are naturally nosy. I mean, it's just the way that we are, right? Exactly. Just the way we are. So instead of looking at the house and looking at the kitchen, you're looking at the refrigerator going, oh, I was at that park last, oh, they look familiar. How, that kind of thing. So you just want to make sure your seller understands the importance of it.
It helps the house sell quicker as well. Like I watched this agent on Instagram, and before she took the listing, it was on, I think, the days, what's it called, days on market. days on market was like a crazy number, like 120.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so cluttered. Everything was cluttered. It had like nasty, like yellow paint, and after she took it, she staged the property, changed the light fixtures to something more modern, painted, did a deep clean, and it sold within like, I want to say like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Makes a huge difference.
Is that Tammy sells at last?
Yeah, I want to show you the picture after class.
Go get her.
Are you saw her?
Yeah, I started following her. It's very interesting. She's got a lot going on her Instagram.
It's crazy, and that was gonna be our next question to you. When you stage their property, are you using your money, or are you saying, hey, this is what we need to do? So, are you?
Well, there are professional stagers out there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And typically the seller pays for the stager. And you're going to have to determine whether you want to bring in a stager or not. You know, some houses don't warrant a stager. Some houses are not priced to bring in a stager because it can be quite pricey. And then other houses absolutely need to be staged. It's great if you have a vacant house that can be staged, especially if the bedrooms are small, because sometimes the stager can put something in there to, make it look like it's bigger than it is. But the one reason to use a stager too, a lot of times, is to take the insult somewhat off of your shoulder. It's because sellers can get insulted when you're talking to them. I think for the most part they have a good idea that they need to do this, but then us as agents telling them, you need to paint the avocado green and you need to refinish the hardwoods and all that. I mean, I'm a very honest person, so I had to be honest with her. But I would not have called in a stager for that property because of the price point that it was in. Okay, stager again can be quite pricey, and a lot of times sellers are not going to want to do that. Rick, did you have a question?
I know a successful agent in town, and she said the exact same thing, that she would talk up the stager about how great the stager is at getting things sold. The stager would then come into the seller and say, gosh, I'm sorry, you got to get half of your crap out of here.
Right.
And so it kept my agent friend from being the heavy. And she'd already said, this person is the expert to her seller. And so she said that worked a lot better than her going, I really think you need to get rid of some of this stuff. That's something that she had learned to kind of bring in. And she had a price where the stager could come for the initial meeting that she would pay. And then if they needed more, that would be on the client. But it was mostly just to have the stager say, get rid of all this junk. That's it.
Yeah. So you'll just have to, determine on the price point, what it looks like. A lot of sellers though are very familiar with today that they need to get a lot of stuff, and they start purging and getting it. So depending on, again, price point really drives everything. So, depending on the price of the stager, some stagers charge as much as $200 an hour for a consult,
Right.
and some of them could get in there for maybe $200 and only give them an hour. So if you decided that you wanted to pay for that expense, that's totally up to you. Everything is negotiable, right? But it's going to cost more for that stager and the seller. The seller's going to pay for everything else that the stager does. If you wanted to pay for the consult. Make sense?
Yeah.
It was interesting. I live in a neighborhood of 19 condos, and all of a sudden, 2 years ago, 5 came up for sale. They really don't sell very frequently. But the one that the youngest people had moved into and painted everything gray and did everything like that and had very little stuff, sold for like $50,000 more than a lot of the other ones. And it sold first because it was the most appealing. And it was really showed me what you need to do if you want to sell one, is move all your stuff out.
Yeah, move all your stuff out. Wide open spaces. Yeah. Keep it going. Okay, let's see. There in the pre-listing packet is also a little bio about yourself. And just because you are brand new into the business doesn't mean you don't have a great bio. There's a lot of things that you can bring, into this to make you look like an expert, because you've got a great team behind you. The stats and that we have from Chuck Carr, The fact that you do have a team and you've got people around you that can answer questions and all that can also go in your bio. You know, there's a lot of great ways to write it. So I have a lot of people get bogged down into, well, I haven't done any business, so what am I gonna say? There's a lot of things you can say. So don't get into your head about it.
Is that something you keep somewhere in command, like your bio on yourself? Or?
I would.
Yeah.
I would totally keep it. Okay, listing appointment. Okay, so far, what do you think, before we go to the listing appointment, let's talk about a couple of pre-qualifying questions. So if the seller says to you, well, we owe $300 on it, okay, and you're like, great, you're taking your notes down and all that. After you hang up from them, what's the next thing you're going to do? Have y'all studied? Y'all haven't done market analysis, have you? Okay. So the next thing you would do after you hang up with your seller is you're going to do a CMA, a current market analysis, right? Okay. So let's say you do the current market analysis and it shows that, the rest of the neighborhood's only selling at $250. Well, they owe $300. Rest of the neighborhood is selling at $250. So even at best, if you could list it at $250, they're at least probably about $65,000 underwater because they also have to have the commission tacked onto what they owe, right? Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. Okay, for the CMA, are we gonna do I'm gonna touch on that, because I'm
not
sure
today, but y'all are.
But eventually.
Yes, you're.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
you're gonna go through how to do a CMA. That might even be the next class. I'm not sure, but you will.
Okay, gotcha.
Perfect. So if you find out that the seller is like $65,000 underwater, or even $20,000 underwater, are you still going to go to that listing appointment, or are you going to call that seller and tell them you can't list it? What are you going to do?
I'm gonna show up anyway and do my own observation, I guess, and do my own observation.
Okay, good. Exactly.
And bring the documentation that says it looks like you may have a problem here.
Yeah, exactly. But just because that they're underwater does not mean that you don't go to the appointment. Case in point, so back in 2013, had people contact us from our website, ran the CMA, they were about $50,000 underwater, went to their house anyways, talked to them. Some people will have the money. Some people just will bring the money to closing, believe it or not. And then some people don't. So what they decided to do was to rent their property out, and we put it on the market for them on a flat fee to rent it, and then we just, after they got it rented, we gave them somebody to manage their property, a property manager and all that. Well, then about a year later after that, they also, in between all this time, we have kept up with them, calling them every now and then, emailing them, the whole database thing that you're supposed to be doing. So about a year later, we listed their townhome, the house that they were living in. We listed it and sold it within a matter of a few days. And then, just back here in March, they're like, okay, it's time to sell that house out in Powder Springs now. Can you guys sell it for us? And we're like, sure, let us do a CMA. So this relationship that we started in 2013, and we've done 2 transactions with them, and I just also sent a referral on Friday to an agent, which I'll get a referral fee for their daughter that's buying. So you don't want to discount just because they are over or under, way under. You don't want to discount that relationship that you could start. Okay, make sense? Then I had a client actually, and they brought $13,000 to the closing table because they were about $13,000 underwater. Okay, and still bought another house from us. So don't discount it. Don't just assume.
Well, and
they're not
sometimes they're in trouble
gonna
because
do
they
anything.
got a home equity loan and bought a new car and they didn't need to buy a new car.
Right,
They just sell a
exactly.
car.
Exactly. Yeah, because there was a lot of things when the market crashed. There was a lot of refis coming on, and some of these refis were called HARP, and the interest rate was, you started out at a low interest rate and then it went up and it went up and it went up. And so if you didn't refi to a permanent 30-year fix when it kept going up, then you started getting in trouble. That happened a lot. Got us in a big mess. Okay, so now that you've gathered all your facts and everything, you're going to go to the listing appointment. Should you be on time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be a little early.
Before.
A little early. Okay. So one of the things that is really important when you get to the house, of course, you know, ask them if you can sit down at the kitchen table or dining room table. And you want to be able to sit across from them and be able to really engage with them and watch their expressions and that type of thing. Once you go ahead and get settled and you talk for a few minutes and you ask them, do they have any questions from the pre-listing packet and all of that, and typically they're going to say no, then you can say, well, I would like to take a look at your house. They're going to want to show you their house. The best thing to do is go, thank you so much, but I would really prefer to walk the house by myself so I can see it through a buyer's eyes. Okay? And they'll go, oh, okay. And what I always did is I took a folder like this with me, and I had the FMLS printout input sheets stapled inside of my folder. So do you know what the FMLS input sheets look like? I should have brought one with me. I say that every time I teach this class and I forget to.
I think I've seen one with the Matrix class.
Yes, that's exactly it. So it's a long sheet. There's like, I think it's like a total of 5 sheets. Anyways, it's called your FMLS, Georgia MLS input sheet. And it just has everything, like little boxes that you check off, like whether it's gas or electric, you know, cooking, you know, all of that kind of stuff, whether it's a jacuzzi tub, whether, you know, what kind of cabinets it is and all that. And so you think in your head that you're going to remember all that when you get back to the office to input everything in. You're not.
No.
Trust me, you're not. You know, so that input sheet doesn't have everything on there, but it has the majority of stuff on there. But you just want to write notes too. As you're going through the house, you know, you'll want to write a note. You know, is it 2 closets, like a his and her closet? Does it have a stand-up shower, or is it like combination shower, tub and shower? What kind of, you know, is it brass fixtures, or are they gold fixtures, or are they silver fixtures, or are they chrome fixtures? All of this stuff is super important when you are going to talk to someone about the house when they call you, or when you're also inputting the listing, or someone else, you know, like the other agent, what kind of fixtures are in there, has it been updated? You know, all of that's really important. So I would just make sure that I take thorough notes as I'm walking through the house. And on those notes that you're taking, you also want to note if you see something wrong. Like if you see a crack in a window, you want to note that. If you see that the windows are fogged, you want to note that. All those things are important because they're going to be brought back up on the inspection report. And those are also things that you could point out to them and say, you might want to go ahead and schedule this window to be fixed, you know, or you might want to go ahead and schedule the carpet to be cleaned. Or you might, have you ever gone into a house and you've seen the carpet is kind of rolling? You know what I mean? It needs to be stretched, right? So you can, if it's in good shape, then they can still stretch it. So, and that doesn't cost the seller much. But all those little things make a difference when buyers are looking for a property. Okay. So then once you go through the house and you've made all your notes, then you're going to come back and you're going to sit at the kitchen table or dining room table with them. And again, just ask them if they have any questions based on the pre-listing packet. And in that pre-listing packet, there's a lot of questions that you give the seller so that the seller can ask you if they want to. Things they may not even think of. Like, for instance, are you a full-time realtor? Like, if they're interviewing other agents, then that gives them the clue to ask that other agent, are you a full-time agent or are you a part-time agent? Well, if they're part-time, that might just discount them from getting that listing because they may want a full-time agent and not a part-time agent. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Does anyone need a break? Go to the restroom?
I'm going to the restroom.
Okay.
What's your name?
Eva.
Eva. How long have you been an agent?
New.
Oh, brand new.
It's been a month.
Oh, month. Okay.
Yeah, what about you?
I just got licensed last week.
Alrighty, congratulations.
So you've been through the other classes?
Yes.
Okay, but you
Yeah.
haven't. Is this the first thing you've done, or are you doing something else?
No,
Like
this is full
the
time.
training?
Oh, as far as training?
Yeah.
As far as training, no, just the Ignite and the meetings, the sales meetings. That's it, pretty much. But I've been doing a lot of reading and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like reading up on stuff on my own and watching videos and.
Where are you finding some reading material at?
Actually, I was given. Did they give you a book like this little skinny book when you first came? Did I get it? I'm trying to think. Did I get it from here? Just reading like little stuff to find out about the real estate market, because I feel like the more I know as far as like the market, outside of Keller, just knowing about the real estate market, period. I even went to a bookstore because I like to read. I even went to like a bookstore and bought like this book and stuff about real estate. Just I feel like the more knowledge, the better. So basically, it's beginning training for me too. I need to schedule.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to send you an email.
Do you have your calendar now?
I do.
Let's see.
The best, depends on your availability. It will be any day that we have class on.
I'm sorry?
It will be any day that we're here for class,
Okay,
if
so
possible. If not, then I'll work with your schedule.
the only day that I have any appointments available right now are
Friday.
is Friday.
I knew it.
I have 10:30 Friday morning, or 11 Friday, or 11:30.
10:30 is good.
10:30? Okay.
10:30 sounds good.
Should we tell Stacy about our missing pages?
Yes.
Well, wait, I think they may be, hold on. Flip over to page 26.
Okay.
I mean 28.
28.
You see that?
I'm going 28, 30, 20.
Is it a guide to selling your home? that we were supposed to be.
Eva,
Yeah.
what's your email? I'll
So this
send
is
you
it.
an invite.
That is it? Okay, so it's got different numbers, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, great condition, yeah, all right, all
It
right.
doesn't matter.
Recommended price.
Okay, it's Eva.
It's just got different numbers.
LA. Yeah, or you could
Because I
just
see,
do this one. It's Eva
all
Cummings
the,
at KW.
Oh, okay.
Disclosures and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's it right there.
Hey,
That's it.
Terry.
it's just got different pages.
Yes, sir.
Look, I just want to say really quick.
Okay.
So that's what it was before.
Oh, wow. Yep,
That's what she did.
makes a difference.
Right, huge difference. So it was 96, 97 days.
Mhm.
She sold it in 16.
Makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm. It does.
That was the house before she sold it. I mean, before she made the changes.
Okay,
See the
you're in there.
In there.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you.
I want to see it too, Mark.
Oh, wow.
It makes a huge
It looks
difference.
totally-
Makes a huge difference.
Wow.
The funny thing is buyers typically cannot visualize.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, so,
Wow. Okay.
You have
know.
to give them the vision.
Wow.
Yeah.
To tell them what they need.
It looks
Right.
totally different. huh?
Right.
It looks like same place. That's amazing.
the-
And I didn't think it looked bad on the
No, yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
it is amazing.
Ain't it great? Clean it up.
Oh, okay. Well,
And today's buyers, they don't want to have to do anything.
That's
The millennials want it
that
done.
needed a
Nothing.
clean.
It's not, yeah, they don't want to have a contractor, they don't
Yeah,
want
you
to.
gave it a clean look.
No, yeah. Today's world, the people just want to move in with their.
Because I found in a lot of
toothbrushes, like-
construction pricing for millennials, they don't want to deal with that either. They want to sell, just move to another place, and they don't want to fix up their house. Okay?
Yep,
Get back.
Yeah, that's gonna be into me.
I know, right?
And it is. I can't lie.
I know. Who wants to move? I hate to move. I hate
We
moving.
can get free.
Okay. On this one, there's a walkthrough. I've never actually noticed this before. There is a home tour checklist, I guess, within your materials. Do you guys have that? If not, then it is on my KW. It says right here, you can find the checklist in your Ignite toolkit available on KW Connect.
Yeah.
This would be a great thing to take with you in your manila folder. It's different than what your FMLS Georgia MLS input sheet is. So I would suggest to take both of them.
What page is that on? Oh, right here.
I've got it on
Walkthrough.
page 24.
24, exactly.
Yeah,
Walkthrough.
and whenever there's materials that that's in your book that you can see, then it will tell you where you can find that information. I don't know if y'all have started playing around with the KW website or what,
Yeah.
but good gracious, I mean, you could be on that
It's a
website
lot.
24/7, right? And never get through it because there's so much information. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So, listing presentation. So it's super, super important that your listing presentation be great, really great. But the biggest thing about your listing presentation is it needs to stand out from everyone else's listing presentations. So give me a couple of ideas what you think you could do to make it stand out. I'll start with you, Rick.
I mean, I think present it in the format, like you said, with the folder and all that, having multiple comps in the neighborhood and probably around the neighborhood, a little bit more than the normal CMA.
Okay.
Hopefully your track record would help. But that's about all I
Okay.
can think of. Yeah.
All right. Can you think of anything? It's okay if you can't. Yeah. It's okay if you can't. Can you think of anything?
I would say aside from presenting it with like certain market stats, based on the neighborhood,
Okay.
what things sold for, I would let them know, and also contingent upon like the presentation of the home.
Okay.
I would let them know, I can really get you, I would try to convince them. Well, I don't like to convince. I just like to, let people know that listen, what I can do, let them know what I can do for them, and just I guess just sound as honest and promising as possible.
Okay, very good.
And positive.
Okay, okay. Do you have any ideas?
Yes, I would say switch up the way you do your presentation. Like I remember my real estate instructor told me that he brought his portable drone, and as he was going to the house, he set the drone up to tour the house. So while he's touring the house himself, doing the checklist, he had the drone going into each and every room, and by the time it was done, he put it into his presentation.
Wow.
And presented it to him. So I thought that was a different kind of approach to it. So
It is.
switch up the way you present it.
Yeah.
Seems like you mean business.
Yeah,
Right.
that's very different. Yeah, that's the first. I haven't heard of that. I've heard of the drone doing the entire outside and taking, outside shots
Yeah, it's
and
a
everything, but not
small-
inside.
It's a small little
Mm-hmm.
drone. He gave
That's
it to
pretty
me.
cool. Cool idea. Thanks for sharing that. Ashley, can you think of anything?
Not right now.
Okay, all right. So I wanted to ask that question because a couple of things that are important is for you to have your unique value proposition. Unique value proposition. And if you're coaching with me, that's something that we're actually going to work on. Okay, so your unique value proposition should be like a 30-second commercial of why you're different than all the other agents out there.
Like a pitch.
Yeah, 30-second commercial. Like, why should I consider using you versus Ashley, right? What are you going to do differently than Ashley's going to do? What are you going to do differently than what Rick's going to do? Okay, so that's what you got to think of, because honestly, all of us agents could go in there with the same presentation, right? So is that going to win the seller over? Maybe, maybe not. So being unique is the key. All right. So let me see if I can pull up this listing presentation for you guys to kind of see a little bit of. These templates are actually, I need to turn this on for me. These templates are actually available to you in Command and on my KW. Okay.
What's the difference between Command and my KW?
Okay, my Command is actually, Command you can,
It's like our system.
Command is an app.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, you can still get to Command on your laptop, and you're gonna do a lot of your stuff from Command on your laptop.
Right.
But my KW is the international website that has everything on there. Like, absolutely everything, as far as there's podcasts you can listen to, there's YouTube videos you can watch from there, there's all kinds of different templates, there's all kinds of courses that you can take through my KW. There's all kinds of different tools and systems in my KW and all that. Command is more of it's more of an app, okay, that you can share with consumers, so that you can put them on a neighborhood watch list and things like that. And Command is also where you're going to run, and all of your transactions are going to be in Command, and all your marketing and stuff like that can come through Command.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So, good question.
That was definitely a good question.
Thank you. All right, which one of these red boxes do I want to
Yeah, exactly.
Look, since we're on that topic, what about is it Kelly?
Kelly.
Yes.
Kelly, Kelly used to be the neighborhood watch app. That's what we originally started out with before Command came on board. Kelly does not have the functionality that Command has.
Gotcha.
So basically, Command is an upgrade.
Gotcha.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, major upgrade.
Yeah, Stacy kind of said Kelly's a great place to find agents' names and phone numbers. Whatever
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Okay, so here's a listing presentation template. You know, there's different templates too that you can use. Like you may not care for this picture right here, you know, so there's different templates you can use, and all you have to do is go through there. This is the instructions on how do you do it. This is, you know, this is designed right here for Maria and Chris Roberts. Okay, so that's there's also a list when you do your CMA in FMLS. There's also a listing presentation when you do your CMA in there too. So that gives you a lot of stuff in there in FMLS. Okay. Your property transaction. Alright, so this one, so you see how there's a picture there. So supposedly this is like the listing that this person is going to. So what I always suggest is if you can go by there, the listing appointment that you're going to, and you can take a picture of their property and put it in here, you're better off doing that. So you know how I told you on the pre-listing packet, you should drop that off in a FedEx envelope. So go ahead and take the picture then, and then you can put it in your CMA and all that. Now, if you don't want to do that, some of the templates you're going to see is a contemporary home. Some of them are beach homes. Some of them are mountain homes. Don't have a beach home right there for a property in Atlanta. If you're going to list if you're going to an appointment for a mid-century modern, then have a mid-century modern on the cover. If it's a traditional home, then have a traditional home on there. If it's a mountain home, have a mountain home on there. But just make sure it's geared towards what you're going to, right? People are funny. People will start to think that's all you specialize in, right? Like if they see that you've sent them something that has a mountain picture on there, they're going to think that's what you specialize in, is in mountain properties, and then you're not even going to get the opportunity to list with that. Does that make sense? What's happening in Barton Hills? So this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of, like you were telling them in the beginning, kind of like what the stats are on here. So if you can see, like this one says, I can't read it from up there. Probably pretty blurry to you guys too, isn't it? Okay, so the number 9 is the total actives in that neighborhood, and then there's 12 total pendings in there, and the average days on market is 42, and the average list price is $452. So you could have that there, or you might not want to put that there. You might want to delete that, because that's going to be part of your CMA. Just because the template is the way the template is doesn't mean that's the way that you want it, right? A template is exactly that, something for you to change. So this is all the comparables. If you do it in your CMA in FMLS, it's going to look a little different than this, and a lot more detailed. So your needs come first page. The process, I love this page, the process, because it really does walk a seller through what's going to take place. And just if this is their first time selling or their 5th time selling, don't skip this step, because the market changes and the way we do business changes all the time. If this is their 5th time they've sold a home, they might not have sold a home in the last 10, 15 years. Things have changed.
Well, the due diligence changed last year, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so our contracts change twice a year. We get new contracts January the 1st, and then July the 1st we usually have a revision, because something they didn't do right the first go around, right? Okay. So it's always changing, and helping the seller to understand today's market is what your listing appointment is really ultimately about. Okay? So one of the things that it says initial meeting, walkthrough, and needs analysis, sign listing agreement, prepare your property for sale, staging, photography, launch a coming soon marketing campaign, establish a competitive price, officially list your property, launch GIS listed marketing campaign, start showing your house and hold open houses, receive and present offers, begin attorney review, negotiate contract, go under contract. This begin attorney review, so Georgia is one of the only states that we don't hold escrow. Do y'all know what I mean by that? So for New York, for example, if you buy a property in New York, then money has to sit in the bank on that property for a minimum of 30 days. That's holding escrow. You're in escrow. But that money, so you've already been given the loan, so to speak. That loan is sitting in that closing attorney's escrow account. Okay?
You don't occupy the
You don't occupy the property yet. Okay, you haven't closed on it. That money is becoming seasoned, is kind of the way to think about it. And so that would be a reason that I would think begin attorney review. In the state of Georgia, the only thing that I can think of begin attorney review would be
title search.
A title search, right? Which, Gannett can do, or you can do your own title search. You can do, you can find the warranty deed in the county to make sure that the people that are signing the listing agreement are on the warranty. A title search is done by the closing attorney, though. Pardon me?
You can find that where?
Every county.
You gotta go to the county office or whatever.
Well, you can do it online for
You
most
can?
counties. Like I can do Cobb County, I can do Fulton, Cherokee County is all online. Most
Because I heard them
counties-
say something about talking to Gannett when you first got it. Did they do it?
They will. They'll pull it for you for free.
For free?
For free. If if you're going to use them for closing, they'll pull you that information. But like for instance, I've done some estate sales where parents have passed away, and because we needed to make sure that everything was transferred over into the kids' names that were selling the property, and that they had POA and the probate and all that had gone through, then I would already have a closing attorney scheduled for that house because they were already doing all the back work on it. Okay? So that would be a reason to do an attorney review. And then you just put in the remarks when you input your listing into the system, you would put in private remarks, that closing attorney must be used. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that's all getting into details that it's going to make sense the more classes you go to. Okay. Negotiate contract, go under contract, facilitate inspection process, negotiate any issues, oversee appraisal, coordinate and prepare for further inspections, a final walkthrough, and close. So, couple of things on there. Facilitate inspection process. All that really means when you're working with the seller is verifying that the appointment time that the buyers have made the inspection for is okay with them. Okay? Overseeing the appraisal. It's a great thing if you can go to the appraisal for your seller when the appraiser is going to be there, go, because he might have questions. He may not, or she may not. They may not have any questions. But for example, if my partner wouldn't have been at one of our sellers' appraisals, there would have been, it would not have appraised at what we had it under contract for because he missed 900 square feet.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So the appraiser came up and he said to my partner, I cannot justify, the sales price. And my partner was like, well, what do you mean? He said, look, here's the square footage. And my partner was like, no, that's wrong. He's like, you've missed an entire room. He did. He missed an entire room, which added an additional 900 square feet, which, But I will tell you, trying to get an appraiser after it's been appraised to change their appraised opinion is like trying to get Democrats and Republicans to agree. So, if that tells you anything, right? I've never had an appraiser overturn an appraisal. I know a couple of agents that have been successful at it, but it's really very difficult to do.
Typically, you get another appraisal, and then the two decide on a third, and it's a long, drawn-out process, and usually the buyers are on.
Yeah.
They're going on somewhere else.
Yeah, everybody gets tired of it, yeah. It used to be a lot easier before the crash. Never ever, never ever agree to be a power of attorney for anyone in a real estate transaction. The reason for that is because then it's a conflict of interest. So I've had clients before. I had clients that lived in England and they were moving back over here, and we found them a house and all that, but then they had to move back. They had to go back over there. They were only here for 2 weeks, and they were not going to be here for closing. They weren't going to be here for inspection and all of that. So they asked me to be power of attorney. I said, absolutely not. You're going to have to get, a relative or someone in here like this, because it's a conflict of interest. So and what I mean by that is I was earning a commission, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I could have gone over there the day before closing and saw something wrong, right? Not make my seller aware because I want my commission. Mm-hmm. Go to closing, seller moves in, I'm being held liable. I could have lost my broker's license. I could have, a lot of bad things could have gone wrong. Mm-hmm. Or you could be power of attorney and you did nothing wrong whatsoever, but that doesn't mean somebody doesn't accuse you of doing something wrong. So never ever be a power of attorney during a real estate transaction. You never ever want to call vendors such as inspectors, appraisers, carpet companies, painters. You never want to do that on the behalf of your buyer or your seller. Okay, you want to give them a list of at least 2 or 3 people that you've done work with or that have been recommended to you. So I would prepare a list of vendors that you want to give to your sellers and to your buyers, and you hand them that list at the time you meet with them. As far as like a vendor list for your sellers, you can have that in your pre-listing packet and put that, get that to them. So a lot of, so you can recommend carpet, flooring, painters, plumbers, electricians, inspectors, lenders, but just make sure that they're the people that call. And then they should be, especially if it's your buyer, they should also attend the inspection. Okay? So with your seller, typically the inspector and the buyer and the other agent the buyer's agent is going to be there during the inspection. It's not necessary that the seller be at the inspection. Okay?
But the buyer, yes.
But the buyer should be. Right.
Yeah, I got a lot of people call me when they get their inspections and they haven't gone and they don't understand what the inspector's saying. And I'm like, if you go, you can see that what he's talking about is not nearly as scary as what it looks like.
That's exactly right.
It's very important to go.
Right. That's exactly right, because what you read on paper can be scary.
Yeah.
But if you've been there in person and you've given the inspector the opportunity to explain something to you, then it may not be that big of a deal, right? So, and that's, getting past that due diligence process is critical to getting paid. In the room where the mailboxes are, there's a lot of vendors in there that you are part of this office, and people in this office have already used them, so they're tried and true and they've been recommended. So you could go in there and pull flyers from there to create your vendor list if you wanted to.
And then they have a list, I think that came out in the email.
Yeah.
Of approved
Yeah,
vendors.
yeah, approved vendors and all
And I
that. And
saved
then
this one.
tomorrow is our vendor fair, I think,
Vendor day.
right? Yeah. Okay. Digital marketing that drives results. This talks about your marketing, how you're going to do that. Finding your buyer. The majority of the ways that buyers look is on the internet. Right? It's very rare that you get a call from your sign in the yard, but it can happen. Okay. Best-selling class promotional assets, smart target networking. Just this talks about different flyers, what you're going to do. I'll market you're listening to top agents and buyer specialists. Just remember, whatever you put in writing, you want to make sure you do, right? So creating raving fans and creating clients for life is like the end goal, right? So if you don't do what you've put in writing, then you're gonna create an enemy. So what I would do before you put any materials to give out to anybody, I would go through all this with a fine-tooth comb, and I would remove the things that you don't want to do, right? If it's something that you decide, if it's not on there, like I never did open houses, never. I was not gonna. I mean, for me, in the area that I sold in, open houses were not big, so there was no point in me doing it. So I took off my marketing materials that we would do an open house. If we got a listing and we decided we would do an open house, that was just extra to my seller. It wasn't expected, right? They thought then I was going over and above what I told them we were going to do. Make sense? So just make sure that you do that. Let's see. Media plan, again, whatever you're not going to do, take it off of there. Open house invitations, email, custom property website, agent website, Facebook and Instagram posts, Instagram story. Are you going to pay for ads on Facebook and things like that? That's all on here. That's what it says you're going to do. So if you're not going to pay for Facebook ads, be sure and take that off. Strategic promotion. Walk through a needs analysis. This is on your coming soon campaign. Professional photography and videography. Why do you think it's so important to get professional pictures done?
I mean, they look better for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all of your buyers are going to start looking is the pictures on the internet. So if they're not good pictures, that's the most important thing. I think.
Right. When the buyers are going to look at
They
your
like
pictures.
to see. So
Yeah.
of course, pictures, video. I mean, even if you can, I know video is a little more expensive, but great videos show. Like I know people tend to want to watch videos more.
They
So
do.
now,
Videos are a lot more popular these days than what they were.
I think that's an age thing because I'd like to look at pictures, but I think a lot of people want to look at a video.
But the professionalism of the pictures, what it does is, I guess it helps keep things in order. I mean, as far as like, what am I trying to say? Like, for example, if we didn't have to do professional pictures and it was a thing like, okay, whatever picture you put up, we'll go with that. I think it keeps it more, what am I trying to say? It keeps it more form, form, as far as like professionalism goes.
You mean as far as like, there's outside of the house, a picture of the outside of the house, and then there's a picture of the foyer. And are you talking about the weight?
No, okay. What I was talking about professional. You were talking about of the house, of the property. Okay, I was thinking more so of, see how Stacy has her picture in the corner.
Yeah.
Because I keep looking at her picture. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I mean, we have a photographer that comes here. She's very, very good.
Yeah, I got to set up.
Yeah, she's very, very good. So I would definitely recommend getting your picture done with her and having professional photos done. But professional photos of the house is everything. And not only does it drive the buyer crazy, and a buyer will skip by.
Oh, the seller's gonna look at those pictures a million times too.
The seller's gonna look
Why
at
you
those.
put my pretty lamp? Why-
Exactly. Yeah, they're gonna look at those pictures a million times, but other agents too. Like, it drives me crazy when I'm in FMLS and you've got this great big window and there's a little bitty picture of the kitchen in there, and it's because they took that picture with their cell phone. That's what it is. I've seen not long ago I was on there and there was a picture on FMLS with the raccoon in the window. Okay, so yeah. Not long ago I saw a guy, and the reflection of him was in the mirror of him taking the picture of the bathroom, you know, and you could see the flash and everything. Terrible picture. So it really does not do you any justice to save that money. Because if the pictures are not good on FMLS, then they're not going to be good on Zillow, and they're not going to be good on any of the other websites that your listing is going to. And remember, your listing is going to over 300 websites. So those pictures on those websites are pulled directly from FMLS and Georgia MLS. So whatever you put on there is going to be everywhere else. Now, here's the other thing. Let's say the seller of 123 Main Street, you've taken their pictures with your cell phone, you've got them on there, and now they're on all these other websites, and 524 decides, hey, I think I want to list my house for sale. I'm going to look at Ashley's pictures of this house. Well, they get on there and they see that Ashley's pictures of the house that she has listed at 123 Main Street or look like this. You think that person is going to give you a call? Probably not. I mean, probably 99% not going to call you, just simply because they're not impressed with what you've done. So it really doesn't matter what the sales price of the house is. You want to put your best foot forward, and by doing that is hiring a professional photographer.
How much does it usually cost?
It depends on who you get. We usually have a company that comes and talks to us during this class and provides us lunch. For some reason, they were not able to come today, and it's virtual. Have to ask Stacy who that is. But they do a good job. They do a good job. They also know how to fix the lighting for the photography. They know the angles to make the kitchen look bigger or the family room to look bigger. You'll see some pictures on FMLS of a dining room, and basically all you can see is the dining room table. That's not what a buyer wants to see. They want to see how open and how big that dining room is, right? So having a professional photography is so important. Okay. If you're not going to do a coming soon campaign, take that out of there. And then just listed campaign, launch listing on KWLS. So which means that once it goes in there, it goes out to all the websites. Professional yard signage and takeaway flyers. Okay, let's talk about that. Takeaway flyers. The majority of people no longer want those flyer boxes in their yard. And if I were you as an agent, I would not offer flyer boxes in the yard. All they do is cause a bunch of trash. They really do. And you have to go by there constantly to see if it's empty. And people will just pull out a whole big bunch. I mean, I've seen them strode all over the road because kids come and pull them out and just, it's better to have some kind of system in place to where there's like a text writer on your sign. And so if somebody wants to know the price of the property and how many bedrooms and all that, then there's a text number that they can call, and it will automatically give them all the information about the house. So that's much better than having paper flyers sitting there in another box. Let's see. Just listed email, blast to your database, custom landing web page, and funnel campaign promoting the open house. If you're having an open house, just listed social media video on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just listed called out campaign to highly qualified buyers. open houses 3 days after listing. You know, having an open house, if it is in the right area, right, and it's priced right and in good condition, a lot of times an open house can bring you more sellers to list with you, and it can definitely bring you buyers to work with. So I wouldn't discount having open houses. I was just saying I didn't have open houses. A lot of agents really make a good living off of holding open houses. It's just in my particular area wasn't conducive for us to do. Open house strategies. So that's gives you a lot of information. When you start coaching with me, that's one of the things that we work on is how to hold an open house the correct way versus the wrong way. So there's a lot more to holding an open house than just going there and putting cookies on the counter and water. There's a whole lot more. All right, so we'll go over that. So so just make sure you read through this again. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning. It's better now.
Good. All right, it's in the details, your custom marketing plan, eye-catching yard signs, your listing amplified, door knocking. If you're not going to go door knocking, do not put that on there. Door knocking can be a really great way to get more clients. Yes.
About door knocking. I mean, I hear it. I mean, what's the what's the process? Like, how would you door knock? Like the appropriate way. I mean, like.
Well, if I have a listing, then I am going to take a flyer regarding my listing, you know, with the price of the listing and that kind of thing on there and all my information, and I'm going to go and knock on the doors to all the neighbors and just let them know that, you know, I just took this listing in the neighborhood. I'm holding a neighbor open house from 1 to 2 on Sunday. Please stop by, and then from 2 to 5 would be my regular open house to the public. But a neighbor open house, the whole purpose for that is trying to get more sellers to list with you, okay? Because if a seller comes into your listing, an open house, then they're typically either being nosy, but they're being nosy for a reason. It's because they want to know, like, is it upgraded? Do I need to do this? I'm getting ready to sell. What's the price? You know, what can I possibly get for mine? So they're not just coming in there. There's a reason. Does that make sense? So, so there's all kinds of great reasons to go door knocking. One is if you're holding an open house, and then other door knocking can just be in neighborhoods trying to get listings. You know,
that's the one that I was pretty much pointing toward, getting listings. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. Mass mobile marketing. So that's on there as well. Okay. And remember when we were talking about your unique value proposition? Okay. This one says a simple value proposition, and it just gives talks about less time because of her marketing that she has on here. Least amount of hassle. I put my experience to work with navigating the complexities of the real estate transaction. I give you more money and all of that. So, and down here in the red right there are her stats. 15 years in business, 268 clients served, 40 clients served in 2019, 61 repeat clients. So her percentage of repeat clients is only 23%, which is not that high, actually. I don't think I would put that on there. 23% is not high for a repeat. But all of these things, like all of those stats right there and everything, you're not going to have those stats right now, but you can pull the stats off of our intranet system, not kw.com, but our intranet system for 247. There's all kinds of stats for what the office has done, so you can pull those stats to put in here until you've got stats of your own to share. Okay? All right. Okay. there you go. There's some more stats. Outpacing the market. But proof is in the numbers. Credential awards. There's a lot of things that Keller Williams is done. So I would definitely pull those down, and I would incorporate those into my listing presentation. Okay, leading the industry. One of the reasons why we're number one, and talks about, you know, the win-win or no deal, always doing the right thing. Okay, it's a great idea when you start having transactions to keep track and keep, you know, materials for the transactions that you've had, even if it's with the buyer. And it's a great idea to have different price points too that you can represent. And because if you just have on your listing presentation, let's say, houses that you sold in the 400s, then people are going to think that that's the only price range that you deal in. But if you've got a picture up here of a house that you've sold in the 200 and then 300, 400, a million, you know, then they see that you're a full-time realtor and that it doesn't matter what price point you're in, you just service people, okay? So one of the things, this is a great thing to have, and so what we did is we would have just one sheet. And so we would have a picture of the house that we sold. We would have the seller or the buyer standing in front of the house with the sold sign in front of it, and their testimonial underneath the picture too of why they chose to use us. So that's a great thing to incorporate in your pre-listing packet and to incorporate into your listing packet. Make sense? Testimonials are huge. This just gives the seller an idea of some of the other listings that are in the area, the featured listings. Okay, testimonials again, as I was saying. Your promise. This is just a promise that you're giving to the seller of some of the things that you talked about and what you're going to do, how their needs always come first, so forth and so on. The bottom line is that, you know, selling and buying a house, there's a lot of wonky things that can go on between the time that you get to the closing table and you walk away with a check. And that's the end of a listing presentation. Any questions on that?
And those forms you just went through, you can find on my kiddo?
Mm-hmm. You sure can.
Under editing.
You can find that particular listing presentation is in Command.
In Command, okay. Right.
And then there's several other templates that you can use that are in MyKW. Okay. And for the most part though, you're gonna want to take a portion of it and add things and delete things and, you know, and make it your own. There. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
How is it usually presented? Do you recommend like a PowerPoint presentation, or would you just print this out like the pre-listing packet?
That's a great question. It really depends on the client. Okay. So if you've got someone that's a millennial, right, they're probably going to prefer to see it digitally, right? But I would not send it to them. You definitely got to be in person to do that, okay? But if it is someone that's like my mother, for instance, she is not going to want to see it digitally. You know, my mother is going to want to see it on paper, they want to hold it, they want to feel it, you know. So it depends on your client. You'll just have to judge where that's at. I've got one agent, and the majority of the time when he goes on a listing presentation, he takes his laptop and is able to beam it to their TV, and then they can actually sit there in the room together and
I think that's the trick, because just doing it on a laptop is not very impressive, but if
Right.
you got some kind of big screen.
Right,
then it can be-
right. So that's what he does. He just beams it to their TV and stuff like that. So the younger generation is probably going to want it digital. The older generation is typically going to want it on paper. But I would have both, for sure. Delivering a 10+ experience, asking your seller what that means to them. Like what does that look at? Why is that important to ask them?
That way you know how you can assist them or how you can actually win them over.
Find out what's most important to them. Because what is most important to them may not be all that important to someone else, right? So don't assume every person wants the same thing. Yeah. Let's see. Here's an example. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 not being so desirable and 10 being extremely desirable, what one thing has to happen in this transaction for your experience to be a 10+? Can you name something?
Say that again?
Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 not being so desirable and 10 being extremely desirable, what one thing has to happen in this transaction for your experience to be a 10?
Get full price,
Okay, full price. Why is that important to you?
because that's the number that I want as a seller.
Okay,
And to sell it quickly.
okay, all right. Those are typically going to be the answer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the two main.
That's going to be the two main answers,
And
yeah.
communicate with me. I mean, and communicate with me, yeah.
Okay, yep, those are going to be the answers. Okay, if we could add just one more thing, what other thing has to happen to make your experience a 10? What else would be important?
Consistency with communication.
That's a good one.
Right. I guess the whole
Knowledge.
process. Basically.
Then honesty, okay. Knowledge, okay. And what did you say?
I hit the knowledge.
Okay. All right.
Smooth closing and
Smooth
completion
closing. Mm-hmm.
and completion.
Mm-hmm. Completely. Okay. How about negotiations?
I am.
Yeah, negotiating. Okay. What would be important about negotiations to somebody?
Well, then I'm available to help you with all the negotiations and have, you know, evidence to support our pricing and things like that. It's not just, that's what I think that you would want to connote, is your professionalism in that regard.
Right. Always making sure that you're representing them to the best of your ability through the negotiation. Alrighty. Okay. Let's see. There is, if you have it, there is a whole I think it's in our intranet. It's also on my KW though. The whole reasons to use KW is on the intranet. But there's stats on the Rawls group, so that's what we are. We are part of the Rawls group. The Rawls group owns this office along with several other offices. The Rawls group is the #1 Keller Williams group in the metro Atlanta area over all the other KW offices. Does that make sense? We're the #1 group, and if you pull those stats, you can see why. We take more listings and we have more closed transactions than any other group in the metro Atlanta area. So those are really good stats to have as well. Technology. Okay. This talks about technology, and let's see. The e-edge is not something that we're doing anymore, so you would not want to include that. But just about, let's see, KW's web network of more than 76,000 websites. That's huge, more than 76,000 websites. And then a mobile property app, right? And then parts about teamwork and how we work together and all that. Then it's like, what are you going to get from me? What am I going to do for you, right? So what are some of the things that you can tell a seller that you're sitting across of how you're going to get their listing sold?
Well, we'll professionally present it, you know, with photographs on, you know, on 76,000 websites and
Okay. Okay.
bring all the expertise of our office into the transaction.
Okay. All right. What else?
Marketing. How you gonna market?
How are you going to work?
You can tell, well,
Go ahead.
I was just agreeing with her with the marketing. You can explain to them how you're gonna market.
Okay.
Their listing.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What are some of the ways that you're going to market a property for sale?
Social media,
Social media.
Instagram,
Social media.
Facebook.
Okay.
You can always market to, you know, the people you know who may be in the area. If you know
Okay.
anybody in the area, or
In your office.
your door knocks, like you said, the door knocks.
Okay.
Open house.
Okay.
If that's something you want to do.
Okay. What else?
Different website. I mean, by posting pictures on different what's gonna go out in the websites anyway.
Mhm.
Once you do
Mhm.
that, it's going to. That's like the biggest marketing. Once you put it out there, right? Once you list it.
Mm-hmm. So you can, your listing can have its own dedicated website. Your listing can have its own dedicated landing page. It can also have its own YouTube channel by its address. You can advertise it. For example, if you listed a horse farm, what target market would you go after? If you listed a horse farm?
Horse people.
Breeders, horse breeders.
Horse breeders, okay. Horse people. Veterinarians might be one, right? Okay. It's how do you say that? Square? It's square?
It's
Yeah, y'all know what I'm trying to say. Society.
Equestrian.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Society, right? So there's a lot of them, you know. So you would have to get information to them, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? So what if you take undeveloped land? Let's say that there's 10 acres of undeveloped land that you list. Who are you going to market that to?
a farmer, maybe.
A farmer, okay.
Or builder.
Okay, builder, okay.
Or depending on what is zoned, you know, some kind of commercial client or whatever.
Yep, exactly.
Would they be the
Investors.
same as developers or not?
Developer and builder are two different things, but typically, correct me if I'm wrong, this is my experience, but typically a developer already has a builder that they pretty much work with before they buy that land and start developing it.
Gotcha.
And then,
Okay.
the builder will buy those lots from that developer and start building on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
information.
All right, so let's say you're in a golf club community. How are you going to market that?
Golfers.
Golfers. Okay, so social media and Instagram, yes.
Know your
Okay,
market.
but if your social media and Instagram doesn't have golfers on there, how much good is that going to do?
It doesn't do any good, but when you do Facebook like ads, you can go in the ads and target different. You have your demographics and the people who you want to target.
Correct.
So that's what you would probably do on that.
Yeah, very good. Very good answer. That's true. Would. Okay. So just thinking outside of the box, because sometimes our market has been good, over the last few years. But when it gets down to an even market, which we're moving that way, and what I mean by an even market is when there's 6 months of inventory available, then it's no longer a buyer's market and it's no longer a seller's market. It's an even market. So when you get to that, you got to step up your game big time, because now you've got other listings that you're competing with, and things just aren't flying off the market anymore. So having these systems and tools and models already into place and being in the habit of doing all these things that need to be done before we get there will help you have a whole lot less headaches. Your life will be a lot less stressful getting these systems into place to start off with. Let's see. Okay. So communication. So always ask the seller and actually the buyer, what's the best way for me to communicate with you? Is it email, text, or is it a phone conversation? And
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Would this be on our like the questions that we asked? Like what was it?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I highly would recommend is if the seller says, I prefer to have a phone conversation, that's all good and fine. If they say that they prefer to have a text conversation, that's all good and fine too. If they say they would like to have an email conversation, that's all good and fine too. However, I would make sure that whatever conversation I have with them, I write an email recapping this is what we just discussed, so that you have record of what your discussion was, okay? Because 4 weeks down the road and the house hasn't sold yet, and your seller's accusing you of not communicating with you or telling you, you're not doing your job, you haven't told me anything, you can go back and say, I've sent you these last 4 emails detailing exactly what I've done and what we've discussed over the phone. Okay? Does that make sense? So, you cannot over communicate with somebody. I promise you. You cannot over communicate with somebody. The biggest complaint from consumers and real estate agents do not communicate. Biggest complaint. Okay. Do y'all have page 41 and stuff in there? Do you have that? Page 40, 41.
I got a 40, but it's the back of delivering a 10 plus experience.
Okay.
Mine's just 40 to 43.
I've got a guide to selling your home.
Okay, you got that. Okay.
The home selling process.
Okay.
What does yours say? Maybe we can kind of.
It's about what you get from me is page 41, technology, staging, satisfaction.
I didn't get that.
No, we don't have that.
Okay. Mark the pages you don't have and let Stacy know that you don't have them. But you can also find all of this in the Ignite on MyKW.
Yes.
Okay. So you've got a digital copy of your worksheet in MyKW under Ignite. So whatever you're missing, you can definitely look at it there.
Okay.
All right. All right.
It's the 41 and 42.
Servicing and marketing, the home selling process. I'm on page 43 now. Y'all have that one, right?
Got that.
Okay. All right. A 14-step marketing plan. So your marketing plan may be more than 14 steps. It may be 16 steps. It may be less. So just determine on what your marketing plan is going to be. So we've already gone over quite a bit of that in the listing packet that talks about what I'm going to do for you, right? All right. Offers and negotiation. Every offer presented will be discussed in detail with you. I'll point out the pros and cons of each offer and negotiate with the buyer's agent on your behalf to earn you the most money in the shortest time. You will always make the final decision as to which offer to accept. That is so true. That is always up to the seller. So don't assume that the seller is going to deny it or not. And whatever offer you're given, you have to present. no matter what, you have to present it. If it's $100,000 below the sales price, you still have to present it to the seller. If the seller does not want to counter, your best practice is to have them sign. It's in your forms, but there is a document that the seller signs that says, "I do not wish to counter," and they sign it, and then you send it over to the other agent. And the purpose in doing that is to cover yourself.
So that you did show.
To cover yourself. And it's so important. I guess this was probably about 6 years ago or so. I had a client, Little Miss D, and we had somebody come and take a look at the house. They sent us an offer. It was really a low ball offer, right? And so I took that paperwork over to Miss D for, her to look at. And Miss D did not use email, and she could not sign signature. So every showing we had to go to, and every time there was paperwork, we had to go and sit down with Miss D and go over it with her and everything. So remember, it's all about what your client's needs are. Not everybody is going to be up to speed with technology and want to do things that way. My mother, she would never put her Social Security number online, ever. My mother still will not, bank online or anything, right? So you just got to remember, it's different generations think differently. So with Miss D, I took that form over to her. I had her sign it. I sent it over to the agent. About another 20 days goes by. They send us another offer. Okay, so this offer was a little more reasonable, and you would have thought we would have been able to negotiate it. And so we sent back a counter, and they turned down our counter, right? And then we just moved forward. But a couple of weeks went by, and we got 3 offers in one day, right? And then so we accepted an offer, and in those 3 offers, one of them was from them again, right? Okay, so now they're back. Now they're playing ball because now their price is closer. But because they had upset Miss D so much, she was not about to accept their offer at this point, right? Not with 2 other offers sitting on the table. So we accepted that one, and then during due diligence period, that offer decided to terminate. So I called the other agent and I said, "Look, the offer that we just accepted terminated. Is there any way that we can come to an agreement, with your buyer?" And this other agent, there's a whole backstory to it because this other agent, he had never stepped foot into the house in the first time, and he's calling me on the phone telling me why they offered $40,000 less, and it needs this, and the comps don't. I'm like, no, it does not need all that stuff that you're talking about, and whatsoever. And the comps are very comparable with what's sold in the neighborhood. I've been doing this a long time. The other agent was just honestly very rude. Never stepped foot in the house. His showing assistant had shown the house, so he didn't even really know what he was talking about. Second go around, right? Same thing. He had not stepped foot in the house. His showing assistant, they resent it. Their buyer wanted this house.
Clearly.
Yeah, their buyer wanted this house, but they were telling their buyer what to do instead of letting their buyer make the decision on what price. Okay. Well, the third time we've got an offer, that agent decided to call my broker and say that I was not presenting my offer to my seller. And my broker said, "Do you know who Terrie is?"
Yeah.
She is president of the Cobb Association of Realtors. She serves on the Georgia Association of Realtors as a director. She has her broker's license. She has been in this business forever. She plays by the rules, and I do big time. And because you will hardly ever see an agent send you over that form that says seller has decided to decline
Right.
your offer. You won't see that. You typically won't see pre-listing agreements sent out and things like that. So that's why I'm saying cover yourself, because you never know. You can be doing everything right, and you never know if somebody is going to file a complaint. So when Robert called me to tell me that, I was like, Robert, I have it in the paperwork to where Miss D is signed off. And he's like, I knew you would, you know. And so he was just, the guy was just being a real jerk. Because we, you know, so you just never know what's going to happen.
But yeah, a lot of times if an offer's just too poor to look at, there's nothing, there's no response at all, but you're saying it's a good idea to go ahead and have your client say, okay.
And the other thing
It shows that you showed it to them.
Yeah, you showed it to them, because, you know, we do not want to be accused, and trust me, you do not want to go sit in arbitration. And it's up to you. If you're accused of something, then it's up to you to prove your innocence. And without all that paperwork trail behind you, you're not going to be able to prove it. Right? So just make sure. The other thing, when you're working with a buyer, and let's say that you, it's a multiple bid situation and your bid is declined, you want that other agent to send you that. And they won't always do it, but ask for it so that you can show your buyer, I did present your offer, you know, it got declined, you know, because sometimes, I mean, a buyer will most likely not even expect that, but it's just good to have it in case they've lost out on like 4 or 5 different offers that you've sent in. Make sense? Okay, getting to the closing table is the name of the game, right?
Right.
Okay, so getting to a smooth transaction, I can promise you that in 22 years of business, and out of all the transactions I've done, I can only think of 2 transactions that from the time we wrote the contract to the time we went to closing had no issues. Only 2. Alright? So there's gotta be an issue. Alright? Gotta be an issue. There are a lot of issues that you can handle without letting your buyer or your seller know. Okay, that's why we're here in the back of the scenes, without letting them know. Of course, if it's something that that they have to know, do not try to smooth that over. But just little things that you know is going to send somebody into an emotional tizzy, that you know you can handle without letting them know, do that. Don't be stupid to where somebody, I shouldn't use that word. I wasn't calling y'all stupid.
You know that.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Somebody might not know that I was not calling you stupid. Anyway, so just think logically, you know, what your person is like, you know, because you're going to have people that are like so emotional and every little thing's going to bother them. And then you're going to have people that don't want to hear it at all, and if you bother them, then they're going to get upset because you're bothering them at work with something that is so petty, you know, kind of thing. So just make sure you know what just make sure you kind of know your client. When you're working with somebody, you get to know their personality style, and then you can kind of judge from their different things. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, and I've had a lot of people, since I said I was going into real estate, say, oh, well, it doesn't seem like, you know, real estate agents are going to be needed anymore. It's just all automatically, and everybody looks at things online. And I'm like, well, that, from my experience, in the 300 houses I've sold or whatever, the point from going under contract to getting closed, it's all about the real estate agent. The 2 personalities are not
Correct.
liking each other. And
Correct.
so you gotta, and it can easily fall apart over nothing. And so
Over
that's
nothing.
really important that the agent can say,
Yeah.
that's nothing, keep
Yeah.
moving forward. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And don't ever say, my seller's not going to do that or my buyer's not going to do that. You don't know.
Right.
You don't know. You've got to go to them. So, perfect example, this is many years ago, I had put a young lady under contract in the, this was before you had, no, we had the 10-day due diligence. Or did we? Maybe it wasn't. That may not have existed in the contract at the time. I don't think it did. Anyways, it used to be that there was no time that the buyer could get out of the contract. Once that contract was signed, unless it didn't appraise, that was the only reason that the buyer could get out of the contract without losing their earnest money. So put this young lady under contract. I mean, and she didn't even have to sell her house to buy, and the loan was already done. It was like out of underwriting and all that. And the issue that we had was it was on a basement. the laundry room was on the main floor. In the laundry room, by code, was supposed to have the drain pipe going out of the house and a pan underneath the washing machine. So the pan was supposed to be there and a drain pipe going out. Does that make, I know that makes sense to you. Okay, it wasn't there, and the drain pipe wasn't there. And this was not that old of a house. Pulte Homes built it, and they just missed it, okay? And so then whoever bought that house the first go around did not make them do what was supposed to be done. Well, my buyer wanted that, and it was important, and it was code, and it was against code. So I called the agent. He's like, my seller is not going to do that, and he's just screaming at me, you know. And I'm like, okay. First of all, have you discussed this with your seller? No, he hasn't. But I'm telling you right now, he's not going to do this. I'm like, second of all, what you're saying to me is unethical. And I can file a complaint against you because of it. You need to go back to your seller and talk to your seller and make sure, you know, and it needs to be in writing. And third of all, we have a loan that is ready to close. You've already been off the market for, 30 days. Are you sure that you don't want to go back to your seller and ask them to take care of $250?
Yeah, $300.
Right?
Yeah.
Lindsay, because if you're willing to lose this deal over this is crazy. So he calls me back in 15 minutes. My seller will do it. So you just never assume what your seller or your buyer is going to do, right? And don't let an agent be pushy either. And agents will look at your license number to say, oh, they're new, and then they think that they can push you around. Don't let that happen, but don't get mad or upset with anybody. Just be calm and cool and collected. Be the bigger person and move forward. Sometimes that can be hard to do. Especially when you have somebody screaming at you. Okay. Smooth closing. This talks about sellers commonly pay for the following at closing: mortgage balance and prepayment penalties if applicable. Other claims against your property, such as unpaid property taxes, unpaid special assessments on your property, document stamps on the deed, real estate commission, legal fee or title insurance premium. And then after the closings, make sure you keep all of the following for tax purposes: copy of closing documents, all home improvement receipts on the home you sold, and then the closing appointment, bring your house keys, garage door opener, and picture ID. Okay. You'll want to probably do a net sheet for your seller when you get an offer. So I would have that net sheet ready before you even call your seller to tell them you've got an offer. Who knows what a net sheet is?
It's what the cash they're gonna walk out of the closing with.
Right,
It's
exactly.
the most important thing to know.
Yeah, the most important thing to them. They want to know what the bottom line is, okay? So there are net sheets that you can, actual form net sheets that you can pull off. But the easiest way to do a net sheet, because the net sheet has a lot of different factors in it, like it has utilities and all this stuff in there. I just ignore that, and I would just say, okay, the sales price of the house is $200, the commission is $10, so you take your $200, take away the commission, take away what their payoff is on their mortgage, right? And then closing costs if they're paying any closing costs, and then that pretty much gives them the bottom line number of what they're going to walk away with. That's really all the seller cares about when they're looking at an offer. Okay. Okay. 3 factors that get your home sold: condition of the house, we talked about that. Marketing of the house to buyers, talked about that. Price of the house, right? Price is really everything. Even if the house is in bad condition, if it's priced appropriately, it will sell. Whoops. Okay. Keep grass freshly cut. If the house is vacant and your sellers live out of state, it's going to be up to you to go by there all the time and make sure, that the lights are turned out, that the AC is up, that the heat is up, you know, and in the wintertime, especially when we have freezes, if the house is vacant, then there, you need to go by there and make sure you drip the water and different things like that, you know. You can also put little signs, you know, like next to the door, like be sure all lights are out, you know, or you know, be sure to all the doors are locked and things like that. Right.
So quick question. So,
Mhm.
so when you list a home, if it's vacant, then you kind of sort of become like the property manager of that property until it's sold.
Well,
not really manager, but kind of
it's
like maintain it
Yeah, there's gonna be
to an
certain-
extent.
Yeah, just a little bitty things, like making, you know,
Okay.
you just wanna run by there and make sure that the grass doesn't need cutting.
Well, the relocation companies always want you to flush the toilets and you know, walk through every room or something like that. That's what they used to,
Yeah.
agents do. So
Yeah,
They have a checklist for you.
yeah,
Okay.
'Cause a lot of times, if somebody's a corporate move, then it falls under a relocation company, and you're working for the relocation company much more than the seller.
mhm, yeah, cause they really in essence are the seller.
They are the seller,
Yeah,
yeah.
the relocation company. But yeah, just making sure, you know, that everything is okay. Yeah. I mean, they're not, it's just a way to go over and beyond what you normally would do.
Gotcha.
I had a seller complain because it's been such a hot summer. They had moved out of their house, moved to a new house, and their house hadn't sold. And every time they go over there, the air conditioning's on like 65 or something like that. And they have a Nest, and so they thought they could set it with Nest. They don't have any Wi-Fi because they moved out. So
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
so they gotta go back.
Yeah, that's not gonna work, right? Yeah. Okay, and then here is the 14-step marketing plan. Do you guys have that?
Yes.
Page 51? Okay, so price the home competitively. Advise you on how to attract buyers by showing your house in the best possible light. Here's a little thing that's kind of like one of my little pet peeves. That we're taught to do this, but then the materials say opposite of what we're taught. When you're selling, it's house. It's not home. It's house. The reason you use the word house is because you're trying to get the sellers to detach from their house, right? So when you think of home, that's kind of like my castle. I can't wait to go home, right? It's the most relaxing place. It's where you want to be, right? But a house is just a house. It's like just four walls or whatever the case may be. So in your materials for your listing presentation, it's always going to be house when you're working with a seller. When you're working with a buyer, it's always going to be home. Okay? Place for sale signs. Respond to all buyer inquiries immediately. I don't know that I would say immediately in there because sometimes that might be hard, right? If you're on a listing appointment, you're not going to be sitting here with your phone answering it for a buyer, right? Okay, so I don't know that I would use immediately.
Timely.
Right, timely, yeah, in a timely manner. Optimize your house internet presence by posting your property in the Keller system. We talked about that. Market your house on multiple websites. Post your house on Thank you. I cannot talk today. Search app and KW's agents apps. Create flyers and comment cards for viewers of your property. Distribute just listed notices to neighbors. So that's something that you might want to think about. If you don't have a huge if you don't have a huge marketing plan or marketing budget, you may not want to say something like that thinking that you're going to be sending out just listed postcards because that costs money, okay? If you want to go hand deliver flyers and knock on doors, that's one thing, but stating that you're going to send out postcards, you might want to think about that, okay?
Is it okay to let them know that you want to just be strictly electronic?
I don't see why not. Yeah, I don't see why that wouldn't be okay, as long as they're okay with it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And once again, it just depends on them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, with the millennials, and then older clients.
Yeah, exactly. Target my marketing by active real estate agents who specialize in selling houses in your neighborhood. So that's a great way to get your listing sold in the neighborhood, actually. When you are doing your CMA in the neighborhood, you can look in there and see if there is an agent's name that comes up over and over and over, right? That agent is pretty much dominating that neighborhood. So if you take a listing in there, that would be the first person that I would send a flyer to. You know, just listed to that agent, and so because they may have other people that want to move into there. Exactly. Include your house in our company MLS tours, allowing other agents to see your house for themselves. So that is what a caravan is. Does everybody know what a caravan is? A caravan is typically done on Tuesdays after the sales meeting. And so if you haven't come to a sales meeting yet, when you're in the sales meeting and near the end, Brad says, okay, what you got? And everybody says, okay, I'm holding, you know, a caravan today at 123 Main Street. So I hope to see you guys there. So that the purpose in doing that is so that you can provide feedback to your seller. Typically when an agent is holding a caravan at one of their listings, they have a sheet printed out for you to fill out, like, do you feel this price right? Check, yes or no, right? If they say no, then they'll say, what do you think the price should be? You know, what do you think about the carpet? What do you think about curb appeal and all that? And it's a great way to, again, say to the seller without you being the heavy person, I told you need to paint this room.
Kind of like doing a survey. You're surveying.
Yeah. So that's good So you'll want to have a caravan for agents when you have listings. And that's always typically done on a Tuesday after the sales meeting. Create an open house schedule if you're going to have an open house. Okay. And target active buyers and investors in your database or are looking for houses in your price range. Provide you with weekly updates detailing your marketing efforts, including comments from prospective buyers and agents who have visited your house. Okay? So if there's anything on this plan that you don't agree with, take it off. And if there's things you want to add on here, add it. Okay?
Question.
Yes.
Is there a certain amount of time, like, how can I say it? How many open houses would you do on average? Like,
I think that depends on the area of where your house is listed in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, location.
Okay.
If you take a listing, let's say somewhere in, you know, like Midtown, Virginia Highlands, or whatever, I'd be doing an open house every weekend in those areas. Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to get you off your groove, but I never brought those things in, and I didn't know if there would be time at the end for me to show them on command.
Yeah.
Do they have listing thingies?
Yeah.
So you mean
I showed them that template that
I had keyed up?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, where we
that's
went
all I
through
was
that.
gonna-
Yeah, we went through that. But if you want to bring the other ones in, you can. It's up to you.
Well, I don't want to go back.
Okay. All right. All right. We're good. Thanks, ma'am.
Y'all learning a lot?
Oh, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So what are you distinguishing between the areas? Is whether to do an open house or not? What are you saying? Is
Traffic? for one
Yeah,
thing.
because
Right.
The more
Right.
populated areas,
Yeah.
you're gonna get a lot more open house people. If it's a house set in the middle, way out,
Yeah.
then you might not get very many.
So
Yeah.
basically, I'm feeling like it's gonna be you like knowing the areas for the most part. So you got to do your research, know the areas, know the traffic, you know, and everything to suggest to go for it. Okay, I need to have this many open houses. If it's an area like I'm in Cartersville, and if I was decided to go to Cartersville and open an open house, I probably wouldn't do it so often. It may not even be beneficial because
Right.
of that area.
Right. Exactly.
So you just kind of have to know your areas.
Yeah, if you're on the square in Decatur, you
Yeah.
probably are gonna have a lot of people come.
Right.
Yeah,
by.
you'd have, that would be a great place to have an open house.
Right.
Also, it depends on price point. So if the house is overpriced, it's in a great area, but it's overpriced, would you do an open house? I don't know. I mean, it would be totally up to you. If it were me, I wouldn't. But then again, if it were me, I wouldn't take an overpriced listing. So, price, condition, and location, everything is regarding open house again. And typically, the newer the listing is, the better turnout you're gonna have on an open house. If that listing has been sitting there for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you're probably not gonna have a great turnout. It's been sitting on the market for a while, so people are like, what's wrong with that house? And that's also what happens when it's overpriced. People will go, what's wrong with that house? Okay.
I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you tell the client that there's all these things that need to be done, what kind of time frame are you? I mean, is it just totally up to them as to how long it takes to get all this done, or?
Sooner the better.
That's a great question. That's a great question. One of the things that I used to do when I went to my listing appointments, I would go ahead and have them sign the listing agreement right there that night, okay? And I would say, like, how long do you think it's gonna take for you to do this? Let's put a deadline on here. So I would give them a deadline, right? So that they don't just wait to the last minute, no, I haven't done this yet. People work best under deadline. So depending on what all needs to be done, I mean, I would say 10 to 14 days
Okay.
at the most.
So you go back and check to make sure that they've done everything?
Oh, yeah,
Before
because
you've
you've got to
already put
schedule
it on.
your photos and everything anyway, so you're.
Right, and a lot of times the photos, a lot of times what drive it. You say, okay, we're gonna have it ready for pictures on the 14th of the month, so we need to paint and
Right.
pressure wash and all that kind of stuff by that time.
Right, exactly.
And I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Maybe you can kind of like set that up yourself, like she said, the 10 to 14 days. Just kind of already have a schedule. I'm assuming that's what I'm probably going to use. Hey, we want to get this done in this amount of time. Like, kind of not pressure them, but let them know the importance. Hey, you want the sale. Let's get this done at this time. And I'm going to go ahead and arrange pictures, this, that, and that, so that I'll be lining it in place, you know, with the whatever corrections or, you know, whatever they need to fix.
At one
Yes,
time, on a condo that I had listed, she says, you didn't have to be a permanent fix, but just get this done for the pictures and then finish the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be done too.
So, I think I'm confused here. So, do they sign the listing agreement before you tell them they have to do all those things, or do they do that first and then they sign it?
Well, let me put it this way. If I go on a listing appointment, I do not, if I want the listing, like if we've agreed that they've already agreed that they're gonna do everything I told them to do. They're gonna agree to paint, pressure wash, all that stuff, right? They've already agreed that. Then they're gonna sign the listing agreement right there with me, right now. I'm not gonna leave that house without that listing agreement signed.
Gotcha, because they agreed to prior, and then that's their responsibility for.
But you've got the signed agreement, but you may not put it in FMLS until 2 weeks later.
Yeah, you wouldn't put it into FMLS.
But you've got their signed, so they're not
Or
gonna
you
put
can
it.
put it, you can now put it in FMLS
coming
as
soon.
coming soon.
Coming soon.
Right.
That's brand new. We were,
Yeah.
a month ago, we weren't able to do that. We weren't able to do coming soon. So, but yeah, you don't, if it's a listing that you want, you don't want to leave that house without that listing agreement signed.
Gotcha, okay. Thanks
So
for
they can
that.
change their mind.
Yeah, or the next agent that comes in, because you'll be the one
You don't need to do
that.
that.
Yeah. Price to sell. So that is typically going to be the number one thing that a seller balks at, is the price that you've given them. Why do you think that is?
Because they think it's worth more. Yeah.
Everybody
Because it's
thinks
their
the house is worth
home.
more.
Yeah.
Because it's their home and it means a lot to them.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that's probably
Yeah.
how they see it, you know.
Yeah, that's right. So that wallpaper to them is awesome. The avocado green ceiling is awesome. We love it. Why wouldn't anybody else like this? Okay. So yeah, so price is everything. So, like I explained, what I always did is I always had the price that I was going to list the house in my listing agreement when I went over there. It can be changed, you know, but if you already had that price type written in there, then it kind of solidifies everything in their mind, and there's kind of like no argument there. You know, if you would leave it blank on your listing agreement, then you're just opening up, you know.
Well, I like what it says, the price is not what the sellers need or want from the sale. That's really important in the divorce scenarios, when everybody needs as much money as they can possibly get, and it's like, well, this house can't pay all your bills, you know, it's like.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing too that you want to let your seller know up front is just because we get multiple offers doesn't mean we need to accept the highest and best price.
No.
Okay, there's a lot of things that factor into that, right? So the highest and best offer may come with a contingent to sell their house, right? But you've got two other offers on the table that there's no contingency. Or the highest and best might come with a pre-approval letter from a bank that you know, because you've been doing it too long, there's no way they're going to close on time because they've never closed on time, right? I mean, there's always something. Or it may, you know for a fact that it would be crazy to take that offer because you know it's not going to appraise, right? So there's a lot of things that factor in that you want your seller to understand, okay? So, then, as far as price goes, what do you think is the best way to communicate with that seller that wants to price it $20,000 over?
Comparables.
Comps.
Lots and lots and lots of them.
Lots of comparables. Yeah. Okay. There's going to be a time when you sit down from seller and they're going to say, yeah, but they didn't have hardwoods throughout the entire main floor. I do. Okay, Mrs. Seller, I understand that, and here's the deal with that. Okay, we've got your house and the house right next door, exact same floor plan. Okay, exact same floor plan, exact same square footage. The only difference is they have carpet, you have hardwoods. Your price $20,000 higher, their price $20,000 lower. If I take you right now to a Mercedes dealership, okay, and this Mercedes is $20,000 higher, and the only difference is it has heated seats, and this one doesn't, and it's $20,000 less, which one are you gonna buy?
That's
Okay.
a great.
Yeah. So that's the way you have to explain it to them, because hardwoods throughout the main floor for a resale house is not going to bring a $20,000 value for an appraiser. That makes sense?
And basements, I mean, people that want to build these $1 million basements, that you might get none out of
Exactly.
appraiser. So
Yeah, exactly.
if you build a basement, enjoy it, because it's not going to get any money out of it.
Right. A lot of people do think that because their basement is finished, it's going to add value. The only value that is added for a basement versus slab is what the builder has put on it to begin with. When you go in that basement and you finish it, and that's considered a luxury item. Now, however, and correct me if you feel I'm wrong, if you've got a $1 million plus house, right, and the basement is finished, that's not a basement.
It's a terrace level.
It's a terrace level, right? So appraisers will affect the appraisal.
It's
The
big enough and
terrace
has
level.
daylight and all that kind of
Right,
stuff, yeah.
right. So, you know, those are all things that you're going to learn throughout your career. All this stuff just kind of takes time. It's not stuff you're going to know overnight, right? Yeah. So the recommended price, you've got all of that. Listing agreement document. Okay, so has anybody looked at the listing agreement? Okay, you have. Okay, were there certain things in that listener agreement that stood out to you that you didn't understand?
Oh, a lot.
A lot of it? Okay. So what I would do is I would go through that and I would highlight the things that you don't understand so that you can either come to me, Stacy, Brad, to ask those questions, okay? And then Lynn, our qualifying broker, and Renee, they come in and teach contract classes all the time. I would make sure that you come to one of those classes, okay? Seller's disclosure document. All right. So never, ever, 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 ever fill out a seller's disclosure statement, a community disclosure statement, a lead-based paint disclosure statement, or anything else that the seller needs to fill out. It's strictly the seller's responsibility, right? I mean, I wouldn't even sit there and do the check marks on the boxes in front of my seller. I would hand it over to my seller and have them do it. Now, they also need to understand that seller's disclosure statement, whatever they check on there, is what they can be held liable for after closing. Right? So, if they check on there that the refrigerator is going to remain, and after closing the refrigerator is not there, they're going to have to bring that refrigerator back or buy the buyer a new one. Okay?
Somebody's buying a refrigerator.
Right, exactly. So just make sure you explain that to them in detail, that they need to be very careful about that. And on the HOA community disclosure, they need to call the HOA administrator and ask them all the questions to fill that out properly. Tell them not to assume that they know the answers. Like, they may not know if there's an initiation fee into the HOA. They may not know if there's a charge to get the keys made to get into the pool. But the person that manages the HOA will know that information.
I heard some of these high-rises have an exit fee.
Right. An exit fee.
To leave.
Right.
Like $500.
I know. Out there, I was blown away. But Seven Hills, you know what I'm talking about? All the way out in Paulding County. Seven Hills charges $750 for an HOA letter.
Wow.
$750. Okay. On things like the refrigerator and washer and dryer for a seller, if they want to leave all that, that's all good and fine, but tell them not to check that on the seller's disclosure because it becomes a negotiable item. So, for instance, if the buyer is asking for $5,000 in closing costs, your seller can come back and say, we'll pay $3,500 in closing costs, but we'll leave the refrigerator and the washer and dryer for you. Okay? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anything that is not attached to the wall, the seller can take. That's a refrigerator, and if there's a microwave sitting on the kitchen cabinet, or kitchen counter I should say, the seller can take that microwave. Has to be attached. Alright, what to expect. These are some great things. This could just go through the activity because a lot of people don't really understand the activity and how long it takes to get things done. So for instance, you take a listing today. Now you've got to call the photographer. It might be 5 days before the photographer can get out there and get the pictures done. Alright? So you just want to let your seller know it's not going to go into FMLS right away because you need pictures. One of the worst things to do, besides take overpriced listing, is to put a listing in the system without pictures. Okay? Because when you put a listing in the system without pictures, then it becomes stale. Right? And it's also lowering your average days on market. That's a stat that you want to have. You want to have a high total days on market. Not high as far as it took, 100 days. You want to have a high percentage of your listings going under contract within 30 days. That's what I mean by that. So if you take the listing and you put it in the system, but you don't get photos in the system until 6 days, now you've wasted 6 days. So your total days on market has gone up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
When the photo and the price are everybody's first impression, so
Correct.
if you want to make it up, then you can. So.
Exactly. First impressions are everything. Moving checklist. Here's a great moving checklist. And then we don't do a live listing presentation in here, but typically you do a live listing presentation with Stacy. So she'll let y'all know when that's going to be. Okay? Putting it all together, your action plan. Now you got to prepare for your next class. You got to practice your listing presentation with a partner. Practice listing presentation objections with a partner. Practice all other scripts with a partner and complete your mission for the next class. There you go. Any questions? We've gone over a lot of information today.
Yeah.
Can y'all think of anything?
Just something that we have to review.
Yeah. It's a lot.
So, would you suggest that we start on our pre-listing templates today?
I would. Yeah. Yep. Great thing. And once you create that pre-listing packet, you can just have it on your desktop and, and print it out every time. Once you create your listing presentation too, you can just have it on your desktop, and then the only thing you really have to change out is the picture of their house. But you're ready and you're prepared. Not that it's going to sit there forever, because you're going to want to, refresh it every few months and things like that. But at least you don't have to scramble to make one when you're listing
At the last minute, yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there? I'm sure it is. Is there like something similar for a buyer?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a buyer consultation.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not sure when your class is, but you are going to have a class about buyer consultation.
Okay. So realistically, we need 3. So pre-listing, listing presentation, and buyer.
Right. Exactly. And that presentation is also in my KW,
Okay.
the best practices. What are your biggest ahas from today?
Probably just the pre-work to have the pre-listing agreement. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to have all your ducks in a row in case you do get the call to list one, you've got all the questions answered. And then there's a lot of variants, like you said, if you want to do this, don't do this.
Right. The pre-listing packet is really a wonderful and great tool. It really impresses the seller too. Because like I said, 90% of agents do not do a pre-listing packet.
Right.
And so that within itself is a unique value proposition when you do that. Any other ahas from today? No?
I would say one of mine was learning the benefit of listings. You know what I mean? Like the benefit, like listing, you pretty much, once you do a listing, the buyers are going to come. And also, it's also marketing for you too. Because, posting the signs in the yard, people see that your name, your picture is around, and, it promotes marketing. And especially people in the neighborhood, if they're trying to sell, they see that, hey, I see this person all over the neighborhood. I'm going to contact them. So to me, that was like, okay. Because I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, and the other thing about that too is like you can be sitting if you've got listings, you can be sitting in Jamaica making money. Instead of running a buyer around.
Because I kept asking why are people so into listings? Like, but now I get it.
It's your leverage.
But as Brad said,
Listings
it's
is
four,
the leverage.
gives you 4 opportunities. A public listing gives you 4 different opportunities to have a sale.
True. And, never say never, but I don't know that I could take out a buyer anymore.
Putting those car seats in your car.
Pardon me?
Putting those car seats in your car.
Yeah, well, no, I just, you know, after a point, yeah, I just couldn't deal with the fact that,
Can you buy me lunch?
what?
No, stuff like that. Like some of the I've heard stories about some of the buyers. Like when you take them out, sometimes they expect certain things. I mean, this is just coming from another, not from here, but a different
Yeah.
brokerage.
Yeah, so I
heard
just got,
stories.
I just got tired of like them not being able to see past the paint color. I'm like,
Right.
that can be changed in like an hour, 2 hours, you know, and
But you sold for builders a lot too, right?
what now?
But you sold for builders a lot too.
Yeah, I had 7 builders
Right,
underneath me.
so
at one
everybody's
time.
coming to you. I mean, that.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I had 7 builders for about 4 years.
That's a lot. That's busy.
Yeah, we were busy, but then my partner, when I became partners with someone, I said, I'm not taking out buyers. You're gonna have to do all the buyers. I'm not taking out buyers. But no, I think it's just my generation is so different than today's generation, and the fact that I'm very visual, so I can see, you know, paint colors where furniture and stuff is gonna go. And for some of today's generation, if it's just not perfect, then, you know, they don't want to have anything to do with it, and that gets underneath my skin. So, yeah. So you guys have class tomorrow, and no class tomorrow, but Wednesday and Thursday, right?
No, we do have it tomorrow. We don't have it Wednesday.
Oh, you do
It's
have
after
it
the
tomorrow? Oh, okay.
12:3 tomorrow, and then none on Wednesday.
Okay, what class are you taking
Then we have a Thursday
tomorrow?
class.
Tomorrow.
We do it Thursday.
Tomorrow we have the
Tomorrow and Thursday.
price.
Price to sell.
Price to
Price
sell.
to sell.
Okay, good.
The-
So
the
that's
market
where you should,
analysis.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That should be when you do your market analysis and
Yeah,
everything.
the first 2 weeks we had 2 Tuesday classes, and then going forward next week it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Because of the holidays.
Yeah, high holiday.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's what it is.
What? Oh.
Jewish
So what's the
holiday.
next
High
one?
holiday. Tomorrow,
Oh.
Wednesday, Yom Kippur.
Oh,
It's
Wait,
not
we're
fun.
not Columbus Day? When is Columbus?
It's near the end of
You got the-
October.
Columbus Day?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I thought that was next week.
It might be.
Next Monday, but we have class Monday.
Yeah, we're not closed on Columbus Day.
Good.
All right, any questions? We're good?
We're good.
All right, so be sure to fill out your evaluation sheet and give that to Stacy. And then anybody that wants to start coaching with me, just let me know. I got you down already. All right.
When was he?
But today.
1:30?
Yes, I do 1:30. I'm about to run to Chick-fil-A.
I'll see you 1:30.
And I have one picture.
Where is the
I'm
closest
sorry.
Well, the one over there by the mall takes forever, but then the other one that's off of Mount Vernon, that takes forever too, so.
There's one on Hammond.
Yeah,
Well-
yeah, that one on Hammond by the mall, oh my gosh, but can you go
One
further
by
in?
Hammond and Roswell Road has a drive-through.
Okay.
Oh,
If you
okay.
hadn't that one.
Yeah, I haven't been down there, I know which one you're talking about.
That's my hood.
Okay, so I have a client, he like a property that he wanted to own. He just said to me, said yesterday, he needed help with his appraisal. Not that there's no message on it. So, what is
So, the other agent is the person that takes care of all the paperwork on your rental.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you come to anything, I'm gonna be here for
What they're
9:30.
talking, that you've got somebody that wants to make application, send you the application that you can forward onto.
Yeah, I find that a lot easier to read than the
Okay.
one that had all
Okay, so
the.
everything
Okay,
that
that's
I've done.
anymore.
I did.
So he charges $95. That'd be for like the photo studio and you just want one picture.
Okay,
Okay.
And he finishes it right there, you leave with it.
I have.
Just
I
one
think
picture?
it was for
If you want.
Okay.
for my
Yeah.
play dates because I have a best friend that's a photographer.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, so,
Okay.
So,
yeah,
but
so
if you
he'll
want
probably need
3
to write
pictures,
the
then
check
it's,
out
I
to
think it's
them.
135.
135. Yeah,
Three
my
different
friend,
pictures.
My
Three
friend
different-
did one for me.
And
for like-
then, they're supposed to get the keys when?
Today.
You can't be
Today?
taking.
Yeah,
are they
and I
doing
had
a
like a
walkthrough
whole
with
bunch
them?
of.
When I
That's
was, see, I
happening
was,
today.
Okay,
I was
so I
past
would
president
assume
of
the
the
walkthrough.
synagogue, so he,
Okay.
Even to a,
Okay,
Yeah.
once I attend the walkthrough, then,
Then that's it.
it's not,
and then how does, okay, and then.
but don't you want a
They
headshot?
have to give me
I got it, I
something
got it.
to
Let's see
say
a
that
headshot.
I was the agent that found it.
Well, there should be a commission agreement between
That I
you and
have.
the
Yeah,
other
that's what it
agent.
is.
Mhm.
So what do I need to give
Yeah.
my office?
I gotta see her. She actually gave me a lot.
That's an
but she's
administrative
trying
question.
whatever I want.
Okay,
No,
got
it's-
it. That's what I was getting
Yeah,
around
yeah,
to.
yeah, that's an
Okay,
administrative question, I'm
gotcha.
not sure how they.
I was
do it.
lucky.
But at least I know the
because
process.
Yeah,
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 thank
yeah.
you so much.
So
He
if
donated
you can go
services
to
at
the
synagogue
walkthrough
when I was
today, I
president,
would.
so he's
Okay,
my president.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
people.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
come and schedule?
Yes, we can do it right now in just a second.
I'm trying to see where it came from. It's like I know it's that.
The pre-listing packet.
Yeah, and I came in,
Yeah,
y'all were around,
no, I think it's in here. We can talk about that,
we sit down.
when we meet, we're meeting on Thursday, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about that.
Oh, it's not until 12.
I think Friday.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
okay,
I'm
sounds
coming
good.
to the
Very
We'll
good,
do
thank
that.
you.
You're welcome.
I'll be here. I'll have a meeting.
Okay,
But I was downtown.
I know you get that done.
Got it done, thank God,
Yay.
went better than expected.
Oh, good. Well, that's good news.
After the meeting,
Oh, it went perfect.
they have
Good, good.
Texted my
sales
wife
meeting at
saying,
10,
it went
which is a
perfectly.
vendor fair.
Good,
So,
good. I know that's a relief to get that
For him and me.
I know. Oh, get that to Stacy.
Oh, I need
Oh,
one.
thank you. Okay. Do you want to go ahead and schedule something?
Yes, one of you.
Okay, my next day is gonna be Friday.
All right. King president of all these
And then I can do,
The last
at
8
11?
years, I've been president the 5th time or something.
or,
Been president 2
2
lodges,
o'clock.
179.
11 or 2 o'clock. Okay, what's after Friday?
All boards.
Friday would, Monday the 14th would be the next day.
Can we do
All
that?
this over the last, God,
We
that's how many years.
can, you'll have to do it after class, because you have class on Monday, right?
Yeah, 10 to 1. Do you have anything
At
after
the
that?
time, I was at my liquor store, and that's just what I was doing.
I can do 1:30
Yeah,
on
and then
Monday.
Yes.
when I
that
met
works.
with Brad,
Okay.
I told him everything I did, he kind of.
Spell your name, let's see, I got it, M-A-R.
There's so many people in the club, and I pulled for the last and told her, wow. Yeah, plus I'm a native here.
Okay, I've got ya.
14th at 1:30,
Okay.
right?
See, I'm
Yep.
not.
You got it.
All right, thank you.
But,
Thank
like I
you.
said, when I was doing all this, I wasn't just doing it as a.
I'm gonna have all that done.
Good, get it done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well,
We give this to
important
you.
be involved.
No, you
Stacey.
give it to Stacy.
It is.
And get back to whatever.
Thank
need
you,
to
I
do,
really
like,
enjoyed
be
the class
involved in
today.
something
Good,
you're passionate
thanks.
about.
Thanks for being patient. I know I have a lot of questions.
No, I love questions.
Questions
Are
are
you kidding me? Okay, what's your email? I'll email you an invite.
M-A-R J-A-E.
I had to have a traffic court with my son downtown.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it was about as much fun as a root canal.
You know, in that court, just.
M-A-R-J-A-E@kw.com.
He's,
Crazy, how to get your money in there and everything.
Thank you.
he's Mr. Anxiety, my boy. You know, he's just worried.
Okay.
I went
Gotcha.
to,
Thanks, guys. Enjoyed teaching you guys today.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Miss Terry, the lease purchase, well, I'll just speak with you tomorrow
Okay.
morning.
Okay.
Just do it that way.
Okay, thanks.
I'm in there tomorrow morning.
Okay, bye, guys.
So we come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays going forward. This is the first 2 weeks. It was
Yeah, I'm talking about tomorrow.
tomorrow. We come tomorrow, then Thursday
Oh, so Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
for this week.
And
Then
so-
next week is
Yeah, I can
Monday,
tell you.
Wednesday,
Okay.
Thursday.
Okay.
I got
So
it right
back
here.
to normal next week, just Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
And it's whatever I sent you the picture, right?
Yeah, you sent it to me. I was just trying to do
Then we have class tomorrow, and then we have class on Thursday. And then you're right, yeah, then after that, it's Monday, Wednesday.
I wish I would got
When?
an email. When did you get that?
That's when I first.
Next week, it's Monday, Wednesday,
Thursday.
Thursday.
No,
And then
go
the
back
following
to
week is
the-
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
Cause I guess she made it. I don't know why she arranged it like that. Maybe cause she did ask me if we can do a 12 to 3 when they were scheduling the classes. I guess like coming up with the whole schedule. So I don't know for what purposes why they put the 12 in there. But she did ask me.
Can I turn this?
This is a lot to learn.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, she wants to say aha. It's just, I guess, there's just so much involved. And, yeah.
I'm still just halfway following.
I'm still recovering from passing the stage.
What?
I just passed.
Ashley said it was easy to her.
It was easy to you, Ashley? State exam?
I was just glad I picked.
Well, you're young.
Not no. It wasn't
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
she sent it to me. Thank you. I didn't know it was
I
updated.
studied mine.
Yeah, well, and like I said, I put it on, everyone was wrong, I had to change it, I just did it wrong somehow.
I use Prep Agent and
I did use Prep
and I
Agent.
use CompuCredit.
Really?
I
I
used
used Prep Agent and I took it 5 times before I passed. So what I did this time, I got
I need one.
You need one?
Yes, ma'am. I got your right.
And I'd
I
like you
did
to sign.
look, I went
Here you go.
to
Thank you.
Real Estate Express. I did it online.
Okay, you did that.
And then after that, I just,
Hey,
well, I
sis, I have
found
the one
Prep
page
Agent
Monday.
as I was doing that.
Sorry.
So I just
know
kind
what day it
of
was.
utilized the two,
The second.
well, the real estate express and teach.
Okay, but you have to, oh, that's okay.
I went to
But,
Capitus.
so what I did was, I put
Once.
I learned
listing
exactly, and I learned how to piece everything together to where it makes sense for me, to like how everything kind of correlates within each other.
I took mine and I was so close.
And
Each
we're-
time I took it, I got closer and closer.
I'm not sure what all.
But what's crazy is I studied.
Recording.
I
Oh, you
never
never recorded.
studied learning tests and I like that one. I studied.
I
But
studied my
I
mind
used
out.
what I did differently this time. I used the book and it was like, guaranteed to pass. I'm like,